right, thank you, everybody. Welcome to Foxborough's Board of Selectmen. Today is July 21st. I'll go through the agenda briefly. At 7 o'clock, we have citizens' input, and anything that's not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance. Selectmen's update. We have a little bit of a feedback. Can you hear that? I don't know, Frank, can you try to address the feedback so I don't have to listen to myself over and over? All right. So Selectmen's update, and then we have a visit from Bob Correa. He's a member of the Foxborough Child Sexual Abuse Awareness Committee, and he's going to present a draft potential warrant article for consideration, as well as we have some other draft warrant articles for fall town meeting. We have at 7:07, Paul Belham, our new firefighter, an introduction to Paul. Foxborough JC's Linda Walsh is going to discuss the night out against crime and drugs next Tuesday. And 7:15 and 7:20, we have two hearings from NPS, LLC, the craft organization. One's a public hearing on the concert coming up on Ed Sheehan, 2015 tour concert. And then at 7:20, we have the discussion vote for an extension for the Taylor Swift hours for the upcoming concert. 7:25, Waxy O'Connors and their representatives will be in front of us for their 6-month update and a change of hearing, a public hearing on the directors in that process. 7:35, Foxborough Wine and Spirits will have a public hearing to pledge of license and transfer of license. 7:45, it's getting to the point. Oh, boy. 7:45, Olson Restaurant Group, Capriotti's over at Patriots Place. There's a change of location and moving from one side to the other. 7:55, we have a presentation from Beacon Compassion Center for the marijuana dispensary to be proposed on Route 1. And then at 8:35, Bill Keegan will wrap it up with the town manager's update. And then we have about 6 or 8 action items. So as you can see, we have a very packed agenda. I think July and August is going to be pretty busy, so we'll try to move it along as fast as we can. So, Lynn, did you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So as we always do, if there's anyone from the audience that would want to participate in citizens' input? Nobody? All right, seeing none. Just a couple Selectmen's update. Concerts on the Common, just a friendly reminder, the JC's works very hard with the businesses to bring in concerts. So again, they're falling on Thursday, so if you're available, 7 p.m. on the concert, right, on the Common.
Yep.
So it's a great time if you want to come down and relax. Town Common, speaking of that, we had an accident today, so there's 4 sections that were knocked down. It was nice to see. I was joking with Bill. We had the town manager, assistant town manager, police, fire, Jack Otholet. We were joking that DPW director, 2 selectmen, and it's like somebody shot the Pope out there. So if you're out in the Common and you see that, it's under control.
We'll lose 4 sections of fence, so
yeah.
that was serious.
So from our past, or the DPW's past efforts, I think we have a couple sections to replace it. We're going to make a couple, and I think we have the posts in stock now. So hopefully that gets taken. Farmers Market every day from 10 to 6. If you get a chance, support the Farmers Market. It's at Walnut Street and 140. Money goes to great causes, a discretionary fund, a lot of it, and it helps the families in town. So that's a great program, and it's all volunteers. And on Walnut Street, 140 and Walnut Street, I got to say it's a horrific intersection. It's been in the news. There's been accidents dating as far back as I was actually in an accident back in 1986, I think, there. Every year it comes and goes. So I'm going to ask the selectmen through the town manager if we can have a DPW director, I know he's looking at concepts, appear in front of us, hopefully at the next meeting, if not the meeting afterwards.
Okay.
Come up with a plan, have the selectmen draft a letter over to the district and Mass Highway and have a meeting with them because it's not getting any better, and it's actually getting worse. So I know probably everybody here has seen it or has some experience with it, so enough's enough on the state level there. Economic Development Committee, we posted it. We're looking for volunteers. We had a couple board members that are interested in it, and I think we had a good showing, but if there are people out there, lawyers, businessmen, marketing people that are interested in joining the Economic Development Group, I think we're going to extend it a little bit more to get a little broader group. So please go on the website. There's an application on there, or at least contact the town manager through that staff if you're interested, because it's a great committee to be on. And then lastly, tomorrow night, Wednesday night, there's the opioid Narcan session over at the church on Bird Street. What church is that? That's the Universalist Church. And that's at 7 o'clock. I think it's at 7 o'clock posted. If you get an hour of your time, what it is if you've heard of Narcan, our public safety officials are carrying it now. You're seeing it, most towns are going in that direction. School nurses are carrying it, and it's administered to someone that's having an overdose, and it saves lives. So if you get an hour to spare, some of us went to the one in Mansfield, and it's very worthwhile to give an hour of your time. They'll give you a kit, and you never know. So if you get a chance, please come to do that. So,
Mr. Chairman, can I just
Sure,
make it?
absolutely.
I just
Yep.
want to remind everyone that at our next meeting on August 4th, we're going to have another ceremony to honor Purple Heart recipients. We have at least 6 names that will receive the certificate. And I just want to remind people that Purple Heart stamps are available at the post office. And they're available all year round, but it's really nice at this time of year, especially as the Purple Heart Day is approaching. If we do our little part to honor Purple Heart recipients by using the stamps. It's just a nice little way, and as you pay your bills, put that stamp on there, or send a birthday card or something. It's just a reminder of how fortunate we are to live in this country, and people have actually sacrificed a lot for us to be able to do that. Okay? So thank you.
yeah, thank you. Forgot about that, Jeannie. Okay, so at 7:05, we have Bob Correa. Bob, you comfortable coming to the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So just a brief overview of what this is about. If you recall, a while back, as a fallout from the horrific actions of Bill Sheehan in systematically molesting kids over the 80s and 70s and what have you, the town stepped forward and created a sexual abuse awareness committee that is now in our bylaws. We put it in our bylaws. It's law in Foxborough that this committee has to be formed. It's staffed by, and you can talk a little bit more about the committee and the efforts, but it's staffed by a well-versed group throughout town in all different sectors. You've been doing a fantastic job over the last couple of years. We have trained coaches, parents, town staff. There's some rhyme and reason about protocol now for any activity that's on town property. So between a couple of years ago and now, it's 180 degrees on awareness. One thing that we noticed at the beginning is the reporting laws. The reporting laws in Massachusetts, there's a lot of gray areas and there's a lot of loopholes. So the Sexual Abuse Awareness Committee has been working with Jay Barrows to put together what they call a home rule petition that gives Foxborough a little more depth on who reports and why they report and how they report in the training protocol. And the training is going to go through this committee. So, Bob, not that you've got nothing left to say, but I know if you, yeah. No, it's, I do wanted to just give the history of it, but if you could just talk a little bit about what you're doing and some of the timelines and the steps that you want to take.
Yes, with the home rule petition, what we're doing is trying to fill in a couple areas in the law that, need filling in. One is some of the groups that aren't covered at all, which are like playground, if you had a zoo or something like that, library, kids go to the library. It's also, in terms of churches, only the paid people in the church have to be reporters. in 90% of churches, most of the people do all the Sunday school and everything are unpaid. Some of the ministers are also unpaid. So some place like that, we're trying to fill the holes that are in law. Also, the law calls for mandatory training, but doesn't tell you what that is. So we're dictating what the training is to be, and it's gonna be on our website. And anybody can look it up and, or go to our training class, which we had probably have 4 or 5 big ones a year. But any group that wants one of our trainers to come down and work with a group, I think the school has 6 or 8 trainers, and we have 4 or 5 ourselves, and so there's always somebody to be available. So we've trained over 1,000 people in this town so far. It's the most of any town in the United States. And everybody who's received the training have been more than enthusiastic taking it. There's some groups I kind of thought, well, maybe we'd have pushback, but those are groups that have been more than acceptance of the training. I mean, afterwards they come up and tell us stories and all this stuff. And it's not just for their own, for their job. It's for them as parents. They bring it home. They bring it to the different groups they're in charge of. It's just something that doesn't go to waste. I mean, so that's pretty much it.
Okay.
So I think that Foxborough can again take a leadership role for the Commonwealth and start to have a better definition of what is already in the law. So I think it's a great opportunity to become a leader in Massachusetts to do it. And Jay Barrows and Jim Timilty are on board with this. So we just need you folks obviously to agree to put it on the warrant and get it rolling. So.
Okay. So if it's okay with the board, and thank you both for that, I think the step is, we've got a list in front of us. What we do now is we have a rolling list of potential warrant articles that is going to come to either the special or the regular town meeting. If the Board of Selectmen would sponsor this, as I guess this would be one of the 6th right now that's on the agenda, for a home rule petition, move it forward. If and when the town votes it, approves it, then it would go to the legislation, helped by Timilty and Barrows, and once they approve it, then it would be final. So it's kind of a
Right.
2-step process.
Yeah, it is. So we start early.
So I guess hear from the board, any objection to putting this on as a potential warrant article for the fall town meeting?
No objection, but should we see the language of the warrant article?
Yeah, what was in our packet or emailed to us is a little different than what's was handed to us today. The one that is handed us today says draft. It says July 21st. So like all the other warrant articles, it comes in draft. Jay's and his group and his aides are working on it. It's going to be revised, but right now, that's a good point, John. MGL Chapter 119, Section 21, the language is provided to us, so we can talk about it tonight or get comments back to through our town manager as the process goes.
Yeah, I think, the topic, by all means, let's get it on the warrant. It's just that I don't know if we can put it on the warrant without seeing the final draft. I don't know which comes first.
Yeah, well, we're not putting it on the warrant. It's going on a list to be considered as it goes forward.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
If I could just clarify, I think the concept that the chairman's referring to is whether or not the board would be willing to sponsor this article, whatever form it finally comes in. Is that your position?
Yeah, based on the draft that's in front of us.
Yep, that's fine.
Yep.
I have a couple of questions. The refresher course, how often do you recommend people to
So
do that?
that won't be a 2-hour session. That would be whatever we decide. Like this year, it may be just a pamphlet that we hand out to everybody, notifying them of something, something new, or just to keep it aware of,
Now, when people go, like I went through the initial Darkness to Light
Yep.
training, is there a database anywhere that you guys are keeping or somebody in town is of
Yes.
people that went through? Okay. So I would maybe get notified every 2 years, like I need a refresher course, or How would that all work?
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably
working it
see
out.
it publicity-wise, you'll see an announcement of, this is our newest, training, or,
Okay.
I'm sure that we would report to you folks first and let you know what,
Yeah. What we would do is, if you're on a board or committee list, you'd get a memo, current employees would get it, all new employees would be offered it, so that's the way we're tracking the database. So
Okay.
you'd be notified based on what group you're a part of.
And then the private groups,
The
it's just
private
up to
group.
them to track it?
well, we have a listing through the YMCA too.
Okay.
So they have a database of everyone who's taken it, so we can pull it off of there.
Good.
We just want the main training done by everybody
Yeah,
first,
I mean, I'm fully supporting this.
All right, so if there's no objections, we'll put it on the list, and we'll keep adding to this list, and then, I think every week in our packet, there'll be an updated list and different opportunities. So, okay, thank you both, and thank the committee as well.
Thanks.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have our new firefighter, an introduction to Paul Joseph Belham Jr.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just join, just to let people know that there are additional seats on this side if you want to sit, additional spaces, okay?
I won't take much time. Good evening, everyone.
Sorry about that.
It's with honor that I actually introduce our newest firefighter paramedic, Paul Bellum, otherwise known as PJ. He's a lateral transfer from another department. We had an outstanding process for the department to really look at some great candidates, and we actually feel we got the best cream of the crop of the group. This is just a little bit to let the town and everybody know about PJ. But we will be doing our normal ceremony as we have done in the past, where we'll have a pinning ceremony, especially for our new administrative day captain and the lieutenants along with PJ. So, but with that, he's only been on his orientation for 2 days. He's got one more day of orientation before he starts shift on Friday. So, PJ.
Thank you. Welcome. Anyone from the board like to jump in?
Welcome aboard.
Good luck.
Welcome to Foxborough.
All right, and thank you for bringing him. It means a lot. It's a tight community, and, I mean, the resume is you're well-versed through the different towns around here. You've got good experience, so I think
I think it's also great for the town to see who he is, so when they see if they have an emergency, they realize he has a new number, and he's fitting in very, very well.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I just want to say welcome to PJ. We interviewed him during the process, and the chief is correct, we had some very outstanding candidates for consideration this time around. We will have additional openings at some point, and we still have, so we have a very well-established list at this point for consideration. The skill level that this gentleman offers was actually probably the most opportunistic for us, in the sense that he knows our system and has had a lot of practice in EMS and as a paramedic, and so he's ready to step in right away and start doing the work here for the department, so he can offer us some real opportunistic relief at this time of year when we need it the most. So we're pleased to have him here. We stole him from another neighboring community. We won't talk about that, but we're pleased to be able to have him here as part of our team as well.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, PJ. Appreciate it. Good luck.
Good luck.
Okay, next on the agenda, I think it's an effort with Linda Walsh and perhaps Chief O'Leary, or just Linda. A Foxborough Night Out, which takes place on the Common every year.
So we were here 2 weeks ago, and I had given you kind of an introduction of what we wanted to do on the Common, similar to every other year. This year, we're hoping to get a little bit more involvement. Still gonna be fun for the kids, obviously. We'll have the fun things for them. But with the situation of the opioid epidemic and things going on with cars getting broken into, homes getting broken into, we're hoping to get some more enlightenment to make people more aware of their surroundings. So we will have the face painting, the petting zoo, the bounce house. Pat Patriot will lead the Glow Safety Parade, Personal Best Karate, Field Martial Arts Academy, and we're going to have Inna Hayes will be performing for us this year, the Norfolk DA, the K-9 Molly, and Officer Chamberlain, Foxborough Human Services, Hugs, TM, which is the addict's mom, Foxborough Citizens Corp. The Foxborough Child Safety Abuse Awareness Committee will be there because we have a training coming up, so hopefully people can sign up for that. Learning to Cope, again, is for family members of, who have addicts in their families. We have Matt Gainim, he's from the Bainan Treatment Center, in case there's folks that are reaching out for help. Partners Healthcare, we're going to have the Drug and Shoppies Take Back. I think that's it for information table.
As you can see, Linda has arranged an exceptional program, thanks to her efforts with the J.C.'s, to have another night out on the Common. I think it's essential in a time of potential medical emergencies caused by drug overdoses, as well as criminal activity that's the direct result of those individuals that are addicted to drugs, that we as a community come together to have more information about preventing ourselves being victims, as well as providing services and help for parents that are dealing with perhaps somebody within their family, a child, actually being addicted to drugs. And I think it's showing community effort across the board because of the work that the J.C.'s and several of the other groups that were mentioned tonight are doing to keep Foxborough safe and progressive. And I really, again, laud the efforts that the J.C.'s have consistently made since we first initiated this program back in the late 80s, early 90s. It's well worth the effort.
Well,
And I realize you have a conflict, but perhaps you could come over first prior to your regular meeting on the 4th and join us for a few minutes.
So the hours are 6 to 9,
6 to
3 hours
9.
straight?
Yep.
Great.
The glow stick parade that was mentioned will probably start just after dark at about 8:15, and that's sort of the capstone for the younger people whose parents let them stay up late to be able to be in an active parade led by the police cars.
Great.
We'll see you up there.
Just
That's
another
great.
thing that brings the community together for a night out and information for parents and residents that, may not believe that there's a situation, but when your car's getting broken into and whether they're just taking change or whatever, that's crime that we didn't have back in the 80s. So when we did the National Night Out before, it was basically a big party and kids enjoyed it a lot, but now it's getting to the point where we want it fun for the kids, but informational for the parents. So hopefully you can swing by at least and
I think if you do swing by, we'd certainly appreciate the visibility the board puts into community events. But I think Linda also had a proclamation request, and I don't know if...
I don't know if they decided to or not, I don't know.
Well, I'm optimistic that perhaps you could have that proclamation. Very good.
We'll take care of it tonight.
Very
And
good.
and thank you both.
very
I know
much.
you've been doing this for years, and it's certainly needed and certainly appreciated. And you had quite a list of volunteers that you went through that are going to be there. So again, anyone that's watching at home, if you've got time not next Tuesday, 2 Tuesdays from now,
August 4th.
August
Yep.
4th, definitely worthwhile coming out. So thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, we have a public hearing for the Ed Sheehan 2015 tour concert. So if we can have Chris read the
Yep.
hearing notice.
Board of Selectmen acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 181, and Section 183A, and Chapter 136, Section 4, Town of Foxborough Revised General Bylaws, Article 5 and 6, and also Stadium Rules and Regulations, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, July 21st, 2015, beginning at approximately 7:15 p.m. in the Foxborough High School Media Center to review the application submitted by NPS LLC for the Ed Sheeran 2015 tour concert. This event is proposed for Gillette Stadium. Application for this event is on file with the Office of the Selectmen. All interested parties are welcome to attend.
Thank you, Chris. Jess and George, if you could just introduce yourselves and
Jess Enos
Floor
with
is
Gillette
yours.
Stadium.
George Bell, Stadium Advisory Committee.
okay.
So we're requesting an event license for the Ed Sheeran tour to stop at Gillette Stadium on the 25th of September. It's a Friday show. We are requesting a 7 p.m. start time. We went on sale with the show in April with 3 price points, $99, $79, and $52. I think the most significant sort of aspect of this show is that this is the first NFL stadium that Ed Sheeran is playing. He shares a management team with Taylor Swift and with Kenny Chesney, and it's very similar. He's following a very similar model that Taylor Swift did back in 2010 when Gillette Stadium was the first NFL stadium that she played, and now we all know where that took her. And so now I think we personally like to take a little bit of credit for that. Had she not started at Gillette Stadium, would she be the superstar she is today? No one knows. But hopefully we find the same luck with Ed Sheeran. So he actually opened for her too, interestingly enough, in 2013 on the Red Tour. So he's already been at the stadium. He has 2 opening acts, Christina Perri and Passenger. And interestingly enough, he actually does not have a band. He loops all of his own tracks individually. So it's almost like a very sort of like a James Taylor type performance. He's an incredibly talented young man. So the show is on sale, and we're at 34,000 tickets sold at this point. We haven't gone into the 300 level, and that's just strategically, it was by design that we've been selling the floor, the 100 level, the clubs and the mezzanine before going to the 300. Just, it's tricky sort of gauging the demand for this artist. There isn't a precedent of him in a venue of our size anywhere in the country. So our hope, we do know that his demographic is incredibly far-reaching. You hear this guy on every single radio station and across pretty much every format. We do know that he's got a large college student population that are big fans, and so we hope that we see a bump, and we are exploring the option of opening the 300 level once we get into late August and that student population is back in town. But right now, the 300 level isn't open, and as we move forward, we'll certainly work closely with public safety officials because it certainly changes the dynamic and the staffing of this event if we go up into the 300 level. So he was at the Xfinity Center in the Market. That's his most recent date in September of 2014. And then we, as the venue, we've been to his shows on this tour in Los Angeles and Denver. We advanced this in Milwaukee, and we also sent a representative to his Wembley Stadium shows just a couple weeks ago to really get a feel for sort of how it operates and what the crowd looked like. And by all accounts, it's a very low-key event. So I think that's sort of all of the main things to touch upon. George, did I miss anything?
Okay. Thank you, Jess. In our packets, part of our review process, we've got correspondence from the Chief of Police, Fire Chief, Board of Health, and the Stadium Review Committee. George, did you want to add anything from the Stadium Review Committee?
No, I thought, again, we reviewed it. It's an in-house event, so Al Donnelly is very well-respected, and he does a nice job in terms of sound production from if there are any issues standpoint, working with us. It's a busy weekend. There are events Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with Revolution on Saturday and the Patriots on Sunday, so the Chiefs are going to be busy. But they didn't seem to have an issue with it, with this being well, I'm going to say that relatively speaking. But Chief Hatfield said a staffing level of either 2 or 3, depending on whether you go to the 300 level. And the police are working. Police department's working on replacing a couple of tactical vehicles up at the stadium, and I know that's in process. And I would say it won't be an issue, but
Okay.
we voted unanimously to recommend, based on them being provided the facilities and the equipment, to recommend to you for approval.
Cool, thank you. Bill, did you have anything to add, or you're all set?
No, I think I'm good.
Set, okay. Anyone from the board? Questions, comments?
Not very complete. My daughter's going, so good luck.
Oh, good, thank you.
I just have one thing I noticed on Pauline's, and this is dated May 28th, but she was looking for updated contact lists for general emergencies, Hedda Park, and sewer treatment, and Patriot Place emergencies.
There's a updated contact list, and then we also sent an updated porta potty deployment, both of which they had asked for.
Okay.
Do you know what the attendance was at Wembley?
He sold out 3 nights. He's from the UK, so, I mean, we didn't expect quite the same response, but yeah, it was a tremendous show.
Bless you.
Did you get to go to that one?
I did not. I somehow ended up in Milwaukee. So don't ask me how I drew that straight.
Milwaukee, London.
Close.
Ginny, any comments?
No, I was just gonna ask about the 12-year-old tactical support vehicles that have been coming up. I was just wondering how that is progressing.
Chief, the
Sorry.
the carts that are being
It's
replaced.
in process, so that we'll have them hopefully by the end of this particular event.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing else from the board? Where this is a public hearing, anyone from the audience would like to participate? Seeing none, do I have a motion in the affirmative?
I make a motion, we approve the Ed Sheridan concert.
Do you have to close the hearing?
Good point.
What's that?
Do I have a motion? That's what I meant to say. He's not listening. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Motion made, second, and further discussion? All those in favor? The hearing is now closed. Discussion?
Nope.
Do I have a motion in the affirmative?
I make a motion, we approve the Ed Sheridan concert for September 25th, 2015.
I'll second that.
Motion made, second, further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? All right, motion carries 5-0. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And you have a second hearing?
We do.
Not a hearing, just a discussion.
Discussion, sorry.
Amendment.
Yep, so the discussion on the vote, in a vote for the Taylor Swift concert extension in hours of the concert.
Yes. So thank you for getting us on the agenda, because I know this was last minute, and you certainly have a busy evening ahead of you. But we had our first advance meeting with Taylor Swift's touring staff last Thursday morning, and they let us know that her show is running up to 11:40 p.m. We know that we have a town curfew of 11:15, so we're formally here requesting the additional 25 minutes so she can run the show straight through 11:40. When we licensed the event, she had 2 opening acts, and in the time between the license and now, she's added in a third act. The show music doesn't begin before 7 p.m., and so it's just sort of bumped everything back by that additional 25 minutes. You know, nationally, she has been running around the same timetable in all of her markets, some of which have needed to seek curfew extensions, a lot of which actually don't have curfews within their own municipalities. And I think out of all of the events that we've got before you this summer, this is probably the one that has the best behaved crowd. Historically speaking, I mean, this will be her 6th and 7th performances at the stadium. This crowd is really well behaved, extremely engaged, and from a public safety standpoint, it hasn't presented any significant issues.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. So where we had the formal application already passed, we don't have formal response letters from the department, so can I rely on you, Bill? Is there any outstanding issues from police, fire, safety?
Yes, we actually, I spoke with our public safety team last week, asking them if they had any concerns about the extended time, and they did not reveal any concerns. They did share the same comments that you said about relative to the fact that this is a low-key crowd. It doesn't present a particular problem. The only concern that I did hear expressed was the potential that that late in the night, if the sound will have to be monitored very carefully, so that we don't run into an issue with some sound effect issues in some of the neighboring communities, neighboring
Sure.
residents.
And the event will be staffed by the Stadium Advisory Committee, so they'll be monitoring that phone line if there is any sound. And we haven't had any sound. We actually haven't broken our sound ordinance since we've been in the new facility. There were a lot of sound issues with Foxborough Stadium, but due to the vertical nature of this building and the way just sound technology has evolved with concert production, our sound is very targeted, and we haven't had any noise issues since we opened in 2002.
Okay. And again, where this is past the formal hearing process, and it's a late application, is there anyone from the audience that came to discuss this? Seeing none, anyone from the board?
Can I say something?
Sure, yep.
We're residents actually across the street.
Yeah, the only thing I ask is if you can come up to the microphone
Yeah, sorry,
and
I got
your name and
my
address.
phone with me. I understand that there might be a low-key crowd and things like that, but I'm a bit concerned because there's a regulation in place for a reason, and changing that precedent kind of is a sliding scale. So, you know, it's already loud enough, 11:15, why can't you start 25 minutes earlier? I don't understand why it has to be 25 minutes later. That's my only question.
Okay, thank you. Jess, do you have a response for the schedule?
You know, we certainly are mindful of the fact that we are in a residential community, so it's a very fair question to ask, but a tour of this nature is incredibly produced, and especially this tour in particular actually has a lot of lighting elements. Every fan as they come in has a light up bracelet that's being distributed, and it coordinates with certain times, certain songs, and it's very much part of the interactive fan experience, and we simply can't start any earlier and still have the darkness that's required to execute the event to the way that Taylor Swift demands.
Okay. And the point, I guess, that I'm hearing is the sliding scale of precedents and all the other concerts. There's no other discussion of other concerts going past?
There's not. And honestly, before last Thursday morning, I certainly didn't think that I'd be here for requesting any additional concert extensions, but this is certainly a one-off. I wouldn't expect to, we're not asking for anything more than these two specific shows, and we'll handle each and every concert on a one-off basis as needed. This is also the first time that I've had to come before the board with an extension request.
Okay. Discussion from the board?
Just a sort of a point of order. When we have sort of amendments to something that took place inside of a public hearing, is it okay to then make decisions outside of a public hearing? Because the notifications of the public are different. And this lady who's in a butter, I'm wondering, did everyone who's interested know about it? Because it wasn't posted. I just feel maybe you can answer that.
Good point.
It's a fair question. I don't think I have an answer for you. The decision to, this actually, we were just notified of this just last minute, so I don't think you would have had enough time to actually to do a 2-week notification as far as that goes, so to be in compliance with that.
Well, my question is, if something was decided inside of a public hearing, the hearing was closed, then there's a change, if we had the time, would we ordinarily go back and reopen the public hearing or repost it?
I don't know what your practice has been here. I did consult with counsel this morning, and he didn't raise that as a concern to me. So I don't know that it's a procedural question in which I don't have an answer to. I wouldn't want to offer one, I think, to mislead anybody here. But all I can tell you, I did consult with counsel this morning to see if there was anything that he saw as an issue.
And didn't raise this
He
as an
didn't raise
abnormality?
that. Didn't raise that as an issue. No.
Okay.
So the reason this is going the extra 40 minutes is because they've added a third.
25 or 40?
It's
25.
25
Yeah, we're
minutes.
requesting
Oh,
25
yeah.
minutes.
But because they've added a third act previous to that.
They've added a third act, and when we got the request to run up to 11:40 on Thursday, that was the first thing we said was, well, why don't you just start earlier then, or can you cut one of your 3 opening acts? And the reason for the production elements was raised.
And the concert's this weekend?
Yep, that's Friday and Saturday evening.
Right. There would not have been another opportunity to have it in front of the board. I think the one thing that my take on this was that they're actually doing the right thing by at least putting it in a public eye and having a public discussion about this, as opposed to having it happen and then turning into a penalty scenario, which would have been, obviously not the preferred course of action. So the fact that we're publicly discussing it and putting it out there for people to be aware of it, I think is certainly a more positive approach to this scenario. I know the building commissioner is here. I don't know, do you have any additional comments, Bill, about this?
No, it just, they are, as Mr. Keegan said, going through the proper process, but just be aware that between what you have now for 11:15 and 11:40 is encore time, and the volume automatically goes up. So,
Well, can we stipulate that the volume doesn't go up?
nothing I can do about it. You can stipulate it, but I'm just being honest with you, Ginny.
Well, can the stadium announce to the Taylor Swift people that the volume doesn't go up? That we are being accommodating to,
They can ask, but I'm just being straight up with you. Not gonna happen.
I think that, I wouldn't say that it's not gonna happen. I think that we've got a really good working relationship with this management team, and they're well aware that I'm sitting before you this evening as well. I can assure you that they know that we are not pleased that we were notified on Thursday morning that this was a request that needed to be made. So in the event that the board does grant the extension, we will do absolutely everything in our power to make sure that the volume doesn't adjust whatsoever from, at any point in the evening, from the time her set begins at 9:20 to the time that it ends. And they haven't, and the Messina group, the group that manages her, hasn't really given us any reason to think that they'd be so brazen as to defy a request that we would make.
well, can we put it in writing, the request in writing? Can you pass that? The letter some Board of Selectmen has, I'm
Conditioned it.
assuming will probably graciously extended the, we expect that the volume not be raised to, in order not to harm the residents.
I think that's certainly a very fair request.
I think that'd be the proper wording, that the volume is not to increase. But you do have to be aware that town of Foxborough does not have a sound ordinance for these concerts.
Yeah, but
So,
don't you monitor the decibels?
but
Well,
I go by DEP regulations. But because it's a licensed event by the selectmen, it's just like a parade, it's exempt from noise regulations. So.
because there are no noise regulations?
Not in the town of Foxborough, there's not. No, never was. Everybody thinks there is, but there's not. So we monitor it, we do the best we can, and we address situations. If a resident complains, then I'll go out to the point of the complaint and take a decibel reading. And typically, if it's 10 decibels over the background sound, because I'm using DEP regulations, then I'll call into the stadium and say there's a violation. But what might be a violation on the north side of town may not be on the south side of town, just because of the way the stadium is situated. The north end zone is like a trumpet, and it carries that out typically to the Walpole side, the high elevations. And I'll go out to a resident's house, and yes, it'll sound like it's in their backyard. I'll call it in, and then they'll thank me 10 minutes later, but honestly, it's because the cloud moved, the wind changed, or the song has changed. So, and I take full credit for calling it in. But it's just the mechanics of the sound. If it's a clear night, the sound doesn't travel that far. But if it's cloudy, it'll travel because it reflects down. So it's a phenomenon. But I've been dealing with it for 18 years, and so far so good. But I just wanted the board to be aware that typically, and I'm not saying Taylor Swift, they usually don't turn it up during the encore. Her camp is pretty good, but that's typically when the sound gets the loudest.
Well, I mean, if we send a letter, they can't plead ignorance, and, they'll be aware of it.
Yeah, they're not to
possibility.
increase
And
the
they'll be
sound
aware of
during the encore, sure.
Yeah, the residents have voiced concerns.
Yeah, I think that would be a good wording to add to it, yes.
Would we have to vote on that?
You just condition your decision to grant the extension. So,
I just had another question.
Sure.
Have the satellite parking owners been notified, and also like the Walpole Police, the Rentham Police?
we'll talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as we usually do with any of these events, all the Foxborough officials and the Walpole officials were notified, and I didn't hear anything back from Walpole. And we got the approval from the chiefs.
And the satellite parking lot owners are aware of it? Because they're supposed to stay there until, a certain time. And this is extended 25 minutes.
Yesterday, we had a substantial meeting with all the satellite operators, or the bulk of them, along Route 1, and they had outlined in pretty clear detail the potential of the extended hours, so that those people in attendance and then follow-up through their email system were notified of the extension, so that they would be aware of it if the board so chooses to extend the show.
Okay.
So if I could add maybe a suggestion, since the lot owners and the businesses in the stadium, and we know it, to the point where this was advertised for the initial application, the residents and the abutters don't know. Can we put pay for an ad into the Foxborough Reporter that just notifies the neighbors? It's a weekend night, the windows are going to be open maybe, perhaps.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
the extension, in the same list of abutters that were notified for this original application, be re-notified of the change. Granted, it's after the fact that we voted, but at least they'll be prepared. And I don't know if that's 1,000-foot abutter list or 300-foot, but whatever list, it's short order. Today's Tuesday night, so you're going to have to do that tomorrow and get it in the mailboxes for Thursday, if you could, in anticipation of the weekend.
Could I just wanted to comment that I think it's important also that you put in that this is a one-time,
Yes.
based on the circumstances of a great past history. It's a weekend, because
Yeah, they'll have
it
the
could,
information, and they're not
to-
going to be
to,
calling.
You
and-
know, one of the person's comments, this could start making it creep
Mhm.
to a later time.
Okay.
You know what I'd like to see? I mean, if this happens again, say another act, it's 11:15, and then all of a sudden they call you up and say, you know what, we want to add a third act. I would suggest you say, sorry, the license has been awarded for just 2 acts,
Mhm.
I mean, that
Curious
would
about that
save
as well.
everybody a problem, and, it's up to you, yes or no, whether you accept that act. So I'm asking you if you just say no, just to make it easier. on
Yeah, I'm
everybody.
assuming last Thursday when they called, your first response was, you're too late. How'd it
It
go after
was.
that?
It was. Not surprisingly, they're not used to hearing no very often. And they typically have had accommodations, or they've had other communities sort of just welcome the act with open arms. It hasn't been a problem at all because of the track record. So I explained to them that this is a unique situation and that they needed to be mindful of that. But they actually not adding the act wasn't an option because of personal relationships that they have.
Are all the other stipulations from that original agreement that we made good? Like, you're not gonna extend alcohol sales another 25 minutes, that'll still be 9
Correct, yeah.
o'clock?
That all
We
stays the same.
spoke with Chief O'Leary specifically about alcohol sales for this event today.
Okay.
They'll still be entirely up to his discretion.
Okay, so if there's no more discussion on the board and from the public, if there's a motion in the affirmative, it sounds like there's some conditions towards maintaining the original conditions of the permit. There was discussion on advertising and letting people know, and authoring a letter to, regarding the sound. So we have a motion in that direction?
Do we have to put all that into the motion, the letters and all that?
It's a condition.
Condition.
Motion, yeah, it's a condition motion.
I make a motion that we allow the Taylor Swift concert to go to 11:40 with the condition that the sound level does not increase during the encore, stays the same through the whole show, and that all of the abutters will be notified by mail and an ad in the Reporter.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
I'll second
No, the letter to be sent.
Yes.
Yeah, by
Yeah,
mail, I
yeah.
said.
He did.
And I think it's important, like George said, to add, this is a one-off, and any other future considerations will require the public hearing forum.
Yeah, could you check on that? I just don't want to
I
run
will check
afoul
on
of the open meeting law in this one.
We'll check on that.
Okay.
Okay, motion made with conditions, second.
I second.
Motion made second. Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay, moving right along, we have a hearing for the Foxborough Wine and Spirits, a public hearing for the pledge of license and transfer of license. So can we have the, it is a public hearing, can we have the legal notice read?
Board of Selectmen of the Town of Foxborough, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, July 21st, 2015, at approximately 7:25 PM in the Foxborough High School Media Center, 120 South Street, Foxborough, Mass., on an application for a change of officers, directors, and change in LLC members of the annual all alcoholic beverages restaurant license for Waxy's Mass LLC, doing business as Waxy O'Connor's.
No.
Yeah, no, that, he's right. I apologize. I skipped down. 7:25 is Waxy O'Connor, so we just lift up and move. Don't blame these.
I was going in
Yeah.
order, I'm sorry.
Don't take that as an approval, take it as an apology.
That was practice.
All right.
Manager Alfred P. Harnback with
My
a
God.
location at 121 Main Street, Unit 210, Foxborough, Mass. All interested parties are invited to attend the hearing and sit at that table.
Okay. My apologies, sorry. And thanks for correcting me after the fact, guys. So if you could introduce yourselves and why you're here, appreciate it.
Attorney Frank Spillane, representing Waxy's Mass LLC.
Paul McKenna, part owner, Waxy Mass LLC.
I know you asked for a brief explanation of what's been going on for the last 6 months. When we were here 2 weeks ago, a change of manager. We did that in more of a detail, so if it's all right. Both the former manager and the present manager couldn't be here tonight because they weren't prepared to come tonight. And the Waxy's has 2 functions going on tonight,
Yep.
so the current one, had to be there. Again, as we indicated a couple weeks ago, the former manager, Alfred Karnbach, had a number of meetings with their employees during the time he was there. He had meetings in January, March, and May with all the staff and went over different items with regard to their policy, but specifically with regard to liquor service. They do have an employee handbook, which they updated, including server training and responsible vending policy. Also, Julie Doherty, who is the new manager on the liquor license, individually met with each employee when she was hired to go over all of their responsibilities, and again, went over the server training and responsible vendor policy. She had meetings with the staff on June 1st and June 22nd, and had a meeting on June 19th specifically for the door personnel, which included hired an additional new person for that, and she has since also put a doorman on Thursday nights, which wasn't there previously. So that pretty much went over all the things that we talked about with regard to meetings. We also talked about the handbook and training and all that. With regard to tonight, we're here with regard to a petition for the transfer of the ownership, transfer of stock, new officers, directors, stockholders, and LLC manager. That's the full name of the petition. The owners currently are Mark Rollader, Nora McCauley, and Paul McKenna. And in the application, we've indicated that it's 25%, 25%, and 50%. The current managers are both Paul McKenna and Nora McCauley. And in the packet, you should have gotten an explanation of ownership, which went detail by detail with regard to the transfers. The only transfer that there was any consideration is when Gordon Hyde was bought out for his 10% for $50,000 by the 3 owners at that time. All the other transfers had to do with family transfers. Mark Rollader to his wife Nora McCauley, and the McKennas within the families where Paul ended up with 50% of ownership of it over time. I think the packet explained everything pretty thoroughly as to what happened over time. If the board has any questions, I can address those specifically. The one item that is missing from the packet is a certificate of good standing. We found out that when we were doing the change of manager ownership, that there were some issues with the DOR. We found out that in 2013, the fourth quarter, employment filings were not made with Mass. That's when there was a transfer of accountants within the entity from a Florida accountant up to Connecticut. From what we could tell, everything was filed for the federal, but for some reason Mass wasn't done. We've subsequently done that, and it's going to take just we think just a couple more weeks to get that certificate of good standing. It's all been filed and paid. It just takes a while for it to go through the system.
Very good. Thank you. And you'd like anything to add on the transfer?
No.
Okay. Okay. Discussion, comments from the board?
Let's open up to the public first. Is this a public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hearing nothing from the board. Any, where this is a public hearing, anyone from the public would like to participate? Okay, back to the board. Do we have a motion to, with no discussion, a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion, we close the public hearing?
I'll second that.
Motion made, seconded, discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Discussion? Unprecedented. In my history here anyways, with Waxies.
Comment, I mean, it was a lot of paper, a lot of reading, but it was very thorough.
Yeah.
Do you charge by the sheet? Your last packet was thicker than this.
Well, what happens is whenever you file these, you have to file a whole new application, which includes filing copies of leases. As you saw, there were 2 amendments to the lease. So you're refiling all these things. But also, we wanted to make sure that you got a good history of what has been going on there, trying to clean everything up and get everything
Yeah, I was thinking
understood.
went through a consolidation of ownership, which
Yep.
makes a lot of sense.
Yep. I'm glad to see it. Thank you.
I will say, you know, whenever we see Waxies in front of us, there's something there, and it's good to see that for the last 6 months, it's been really quiet, and that's good to see, and they're supportive of Fox Cares, and that's also a good thing, so
Yep.
keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Do I hear a motion in the affirmative for the application?
I make a motion, we approve the new change of officers and board of directors members for Waxy O'Connors.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Now, Foxborough Wine and Spirits.
Board of Selectmen of the Town of Foxborough, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, July 21st, 2015, at approximately 7:35 p.m. in the Foxborough High School Media Center, 120 South Street, Foxborough, Mass., on an application and pledge of license and transfer of license for an annual all-alcohol package store license for Foxborough Wine and Spirits, Inc., doing business as Foxborough Wine and Spirits, Inc., 14 South Street, Foxborough, Mass. 02035. Manager Evan Tsambus. All interested persons are invited to attend the hearing.
Thank you, and welcome. If you could just introduce yourself for the record.
Yeah, Matt Porter, attorney for Yugvir Inc.
Nimesh Patel.
Vivian Patel.
Okay. Okay, Chief.
Yes, so I'm here with Mr. and Mrs. Patel. They're the sole owners and the sole officers of Yugvir Inc., who's the application before you today. The specific plans for the store would be for it to remain operating the way that it's been for the last several years. There are no planned structural changes. Ms. Patel will be the manager on record. They'll both be very hands-on owners. Currently, they own and operate a store in East Bridgewater, which has been a very successful location for them. And they've had no issues with the town. They're tip certified, very well experienced in the field of liquor. And before you is the full application. Certainly I can answer any questions or concerns that you may have.
Thank you very much. Bill, anything unusual or outstanding that you wanted to comment on?
No comments from this side.
Okay. And I'll go where this is a public hearing. Anyone from the audience? Okay, back to the board. Any comments or concerns?
Yeah, one question, Jim. Mrs. Patel, you say that you're gonna be there on-site 20 hours a week. Are you gonna be there as well?
Yeah, I'll be a personally myself.
Okay, so combined, you'll be there the majority of the time that the business is open?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're hiring other employees? When you're not there, will there be a manager
Yeah.
on site?
Like a half part-time or some. I most probably there all the time.
Anything else from the board?
I didn't see it in here. Do you have any past violations with the ABCC
No,
or
never.
within the town of East Bridgewater?
No.
Ginny?
So you'll be splitting the management between the Foxborough store and the West Bridgewater store?
Yeah, the East Bridgewater, yes.
East Bridgewater. So you'll be,
No, the one of them, my wife, she can run the one of them.
for 20 hours in Foxborough.
I put it myself, and she works on the East Bridgewater.
Okay.
So,
So someone will be there at the full.
yeah, I'm built there full time.
Okay, and did you want to ask about Foxborough?
Yeah, are you aware of the Fox Cares group that's in town? That's group of liquor license holders in town. They have a group that's, goes out and supports the community
Yep,
on
always.
responsible
Yep.
liquor sales and distribution.
Yep.
Are you familiar with that?
No, I don't.
Okay. I'll make sure they get in touch with you. Evan?
current owner, I am
Yep.
a member of Fox Care.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I see.
Okay, if you can just fill them in on it and what it's all about, and we'll make sure Ellen Davis gets them the proper information. We'd really like you to support that group.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And can I ask the tips in the ABCC regulations, but with respect to Foxborough's local liquor regulations, have you read those?
We always,
Okay, how did you find those?
which,
I
the,
mean, generally, you read through them, but anything that's too onerous or complicated, or? We have local regulations on the alcohol.
yeah,
That's a little above and beyond the state regulations.
Yeah, I can certainly review that more thoroughly with him,
Okay.
point us in the right direction.
Yeah, they should have received a copy of the regulations. when
Okay.
Did
they-
you receive a copy of that?
no, not yet.
Is it available on?
I think it's available everywhere. We've, the point being, when we say zero tolerance for underage, historically, not just this board, but over the past years, not very forgiving. And it takes a long time to get back into graces. And, there's a 3-strike rule. And for my experience, it's pretty much 1 strike, 2 strike, 3 strike, and there's no more license. So it's above and beyond what the state mandates and requires.
Okay.
So,
I'll make an effort to go through that with them thoroughly.
please.
And that's why Fox Cares it's such an important group, and it's a very helpful group to the business owners, for education and.
Okay.
It's a proactive measure, so because the board has a very clear message about the licensing aspect of alcohol. And this group was formed following a year where there were some increased violations. And as a result, that group has done a terrific job of quelling that rather significantly by taking some proactive measures by getting everybody together to make sure that they continuously monitor that type of activity.
And I know the past owner is very well received in the community, and very, very few problems, so it's worth a dialogue with them as well.
We will absolutely do
Yeah,
that.
we try this.
Okay. Okay, and anyone else from the board? Entertain a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the all alcohol license and transfer of Foxborough Wine and Spirits.
Motion made, seconded.
I'll second that.
Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion
The motion
Or-
carries.
motion to close the hearing. We have a motion to close the hearing before we approve this
Oh.
motion.
Make a motion, we close the hearing.
Hearing
And I'll second that.
seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor of closing the hearing? Motion
Aye.
closed. Motion's made to approve it, and it was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Having heard all that, welcome to Foxborough. And I wish you luck from East Bridgewater. You know, you try to go through these this quick. And I'm still a half hour behind. Okay, next on the agenda, if I can find it, we've got the Olson Restaurant Group in Capriotti's. It's a change of location to 267 Patriots Place.
Yes.
Welcome, if you could introduce yourself for the record.
Matt Coughlin, I'm the GM at the Foxborough store.
Just for the board's information on this, Capriotti's was located on the same side where Old Navy was located, as well as Red Robin.
Yep.
And that section of the building has been removed so they can build a new hotel.
Right.
So they've located to the opposite side of the mall. And so, that store has just recently been completed, along with where Moe's has
Yep,
been added.
right next to Moe's.
And Red Robin has been finished on the other side, next to CVSC.
Yeah.
Okay. And you are the store manager?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, questions for Nick from the board? Or comments on the?
Are you presently operating?
Yes.
Okay. So you've already moved the locations?
Yeah, we moved, we've been open for about 4 weeks now.
Okay.
Any other comments and questions on the application? Anyone from the public? Okay, do we have a?
Should we have gotten this before the move or after the move? Received July 2nd.
July 29th, June 29th.
No, date stands July 2nd.
Oh. That was 3 days after, so it was probably just mailed.
Okay. So in other words, there was an application to move locations on June 29th.
Right.
They've moved locations technically without approval. They're in front of us in July for the approval.
Right.
How did that happen?
Unfortunately, it was one of those things, everything with the Patriots Place kind of just being like, we had the hotel building out, you gotta be out by this date. Construction started at the new location, and unfortunately with everything that was happening, it was one of those things that happened to slip through the cracks, I believe.
Okay. And there's no alcohol involved in this? This is a
No.
victuals
alcohol.
license only?
Right.
Yep.
How long have you been the manager for?
I was the GM over the Mansfield store for a year and a half and just took over this one right after the move.
Okay. 'Cause this was filed by another manager, Nick something,
Nick's our district manager.
district manager?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, and you're the store manager?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I'm the GM of the store.
So, what comes to mind is the Board of Health, did they know you moved?
Yep.
They did all their
We
inspections?
got all our
and-
approvals, everything like that.
Okay, I assume so. Anyone like to,
If you got an occupancy permit, isn't that contingent on common victualer's license?
Well, see, they had a victualer's license, and so this is one of those things where they just literally moved across the street.
Yeah.
So, I'll check on that, the status of how that happened, but it must have been because they already had a license, as opposed to, because they're just moving of the construction
Is
from one
this-
location to the next.
Is this the final restaurant that's moving from one place
I
to the
believe
next?
so, I believe it is, yeah.
Red Robin's finishing out their build-out, and they should be
They-
the
they-
last one that's moving down.
They've already been
They're,
before
they're,
us.
they're all set, yeah.
So they were
they're
the
all
last
set.
one that moved in from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Moe's just completed last week, so.
Right, they were here
Right.
before us.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll check in that process, because it may have been that's why
Yeah,
it was
just-
overlooked. Yeah.
To remind the management, you know, to keep their tenants
Right.
up on the rules and regs. Yeah.
I can tell you, they've generally been pretty good
Yeah.
about doing that, so
Yeah.
I'll just, we'll check on it. I think that,
Well,
we'll
you
check
don't
on our
want them
internal process too.
this was a common victualist, but you don't want them to do anything with like a liquor license.
Well,
That's
well,
a little
without,
more-
with alcohol, there's a
Right.
much more, stringent
Stringent,
requirement, yeah,
yeah.
for that, so,
So now, next time you move, you know.
Right.
that's right.
Okay, any more comments on the common victuals license? Do I hear a motion in the affirmative for the license?
Make a motion, we approve the common victuals license for Capriati's
At the new address.
at the new address.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, 7:55, so 15 minutes late, but next on the agenda is the Boston Compassion Center, the marijuana dispensary, Route 1. What did I say? Oh, Beacon.
You have a tough night, did you?
Beacon Compassion Center.
We got a little bit of our contingent that hit the restaurant, so.
Sure, okay.
I apologize.
Yeah, we can wait. So, just so everyone understands, this is under the Department of Health and Human Services, a registered marijuana dispensary application process. And from what I understand, this is the first step. The applicants must provide a letter of support or non-opposition from the municipality where they're intended to locate their RMD. So this is probably one of the first steps. So before they introduce themselves, just on a cautionary note here, new process in the state. The regulations and the law just got updated in May. Certainly in the state, certainly in Foxborough, this is new. I'm viewing this more as a presentation and a listen and observe. We've also received the application or the information packet. Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, we sent it to our town council for
Yes.
them to review and then to come back and advise us on process and
Right.
and what our obligations and responsibilities are for this. And actually, before we start, I just want to caution, this was an application or a presentation that was prepared for James J. DeVellis. And in the future, could you address it to the Board of Selectmen rather than just me? And it says confidential, do not copy or distribute. Anything that comes to this table will be copied and distributed. So I just wanted to say that before you made your presentation, if there's an anticipation of privacy, this is not private.
There was, and I appreciate and understand that, thank you. There was an updated packet that was provided this afternoon that I was hoping would be distributed to the council that has that removed.
Okay, very good.
Yes. Yes.
So having said that, if you could introduce yourself for the record, please, thank you.
Stephen Angelo, Executive Director of Beacon Compassion Center.
Rena Cometti, President of Beacon Compassion.
O'Reilly, Director of Security. Dr. Edgar Bolinas, Medical Director.
Okay.
Chris Crane with Forefront Advisors, a consultant in the project.
Very good, thank you. So we received the packet, and this is the only thing that we received, so if you wanted to give us a presentation?
Yes, thank you. So good evening. My name is Steve Angelo. I am the Executive Director of Beacon Compassion Center. With me tonight are Rena Cometti, our President, Dr. Edgar Bolinas, our Medical Director, Stephen O'Reilly, our Director of Security, Chris Crane from Forefront Advisors, and Donna Rainham, who handles community outreach and public relations. We very much appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight about our proposal to locate a medical marijuana facility or dispensary in Foxborough. I'd like to spend just a quick moment to give you an overview about the medical marijuana program in Massachusetts, the Beacon Compassion Center team, our mission and vision for the organization, the proposed location, our plan to protect the safety of our patients and the public, our commitment to giving back to the community, and the timing of the process. This information is also included in the handouts, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have at the end of this presentation. As I'm sure you all know, in 2012, voters in Massachusetts overwhelmingly approved a ballot initiative to create a program to allow qualifying registered patients suffering from a number of debilitating conditions to purchase medical marijuana from a medical marijuana dispensary set up in each county. the Department of Public Health, or DPH, was charged with writing regulations and overseeing the process. Since the initiative passed, there have been delays, charges of conflicts of interest, and an overall flawed process. And now, 2 years later, only one dispensary in Salem is open. 14 others are moving through the licensing process, and many are expected to open this year. Because of these delays, patients have not been able to purchase their medicine. That's why Governor Baker has streamlined the process. Medical marijuana dispensaries will now be licensed and overseen like pharmacies are regulated in the state. I'll talk more about where Beacon Compassion is in the process in just a couple of minutes. Here in Foxborough, the town voted in favor of medical marijuana and at the annual town meeting. The vote was almost unanimous to establish a zone within the town to locate a medical marijuana dispensary that has been approved by the state. Our proposed location is within that zone that was approved by the town. Beacon Compassion Center was founded by Rena Cometti and myself. Rena and I are lifelong residents of the area and care deeply about this community. We live in Walpole and have been involved in community issues and causes for many years. I have 2 children that attend Walpole Public High School, and also my son is just joined the Foxborough Fire Explorers program as well. Our roots are here, and that's one of the main reasons we chose to locate our dispensary in neighboring Foxborough. For us, this is also deeply personal. Both Rena and I have lost loved ones who could have been greatly helped by medical marijuana. Our mission is to ease the pain and suffering of patients throughout the use of medical marijuana. The vision of Beacon Compassion is to become a medical marijuana provider of choice by operating in a completely transparent manner and by being accessible and accountable to the community of Foxborough. To help us achieve this goal, we have put together a team that has decades of experience in healthcare, public safety, and business, which will allow us to open up one of the best, if not the best, dispensary in the state. Dr. Edgar Belanis, our medical director, is a longtime Massachusetts resident and an emergency department physician at Jordan Hospital in Plymouth. He is also an addiction expert who runs multiple Suboxone clinics. And he is also a veteran who has proudly served our country. At the end of my presentation, Dr. Belanis is going to say a few words about medical marijuana, how it helps patients, and particularly those who have been struggling with addiction to opioids. Also with us tonight, and an important member of our team, is Stephen O'Reilly, our Director of Security. Steve spent over 30 years as a state trooper and has worked in the Bristol County DA's office, overseeing the drug and homicide units. He will be working closely with law enforcement here in Foxborough on all security issues. And let me assure you, our top priority is protecting the safety of our public and our patients. Rena Cometti, our president and co-founder, has run a successful nationwide appraisal management company for many years and has been involved in community service in the area for decades. My background is in technology and management, and I spent many years working for NSTAR, where I developed and put together their program and operations with regards to security and cyber terrorism. In terms of our operation, our advisory team includes another medical doctor who was a finalist for the position of Surgeon General and was also a senior advisor to President Clinton. We also have 2 individuals with experience in the medical cannabis industry on our team, 3 others with extensive experience and knowledge of the regulatory compliance and operations in healthcare and business, and the co-founder of a healthcare company called ProCure Treatments. We are also working with consultants in this new industry and with experience in setting up best-in-class dispensaries in other states. Our proposed location for the dispensary is 24 Washington Street. We chose this location for several reasons. It is within the approved zone, and it meets all regulations for safe distance from schools, churches, and parks where children congregate. It is also easily accessible for patients in the area. In terms of safety, we will be essentially demolishing the building and have a new construction project in place of the existing building, which I think we could all agree is a pretty significant eyesore in the community. We will be installing a state-of-the-art security system with 24-hour video surveillance, no entrance without proper identification, and a real-time computer tracking system monitored for all transactions. Again, we look forward to input from the Foxborough Police Department as well as we install this system. We consider ourselves and would like to consider ourselves partners in the town of Foxborough. As I mentioned, no patients will be allowed access into the facility without first showing proper identification, a photo ID that resembles a license, which is scanned and validated on an online system through the state of Massachusetts. After construction is complete, the facility it'll be a professional building that'll look more like a clinic or a medical building in a retail environment. Beacon Compassion is also committed to giving back to the community, and we are looking forward to discussing the details of a community benefits package to support programs, agencies, and nonprofit organizations of the community's choice. We share a mutual goal of preventing substance abuse. To that end, we will remain deeply involved in programs and events that address the issues long after our doors open. Beacon Compassion is also committed to hiring local talent whenever possible. As I mentioned earlier, there is a new application process underway. We submitted our application of intent to the Department of Public Health on June 29th. As part of that process, everyone on the team will go through an extensive background check, and all of our operating, security, and business plans will be fully vetted by the state. One of the requirements in the licensing process is to submit a letter of support or non-opposition from the city or town where our facility will be located. The regulations state that once a dispensary receives a letter of non-opposition or support from the town, they will then be able to move forward to the siting phase. In terms of timing, we would anticipate if we received a letter and the approvals needed by the town and the state, construction would be taking place over several months with a goal of opening Beacon Compassion Center and begin serving patients within approximately a year. We look forward to partnering with Foxborough during all phases of the project. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'd like to now introduce our medical director, Dr. Edgar Belanis.
Thank you, Steve, and proud to be able to be here among you individuals, ladies, gentlemen of the Selectmen Board. As Steve had mentioned, primarily was involved with emergency medicine practice here in the state, 23 years total. Started in New York City as a resident in emergency medicine at a hospital that dealt with obviously a lot of trauma, and we also dealt with a lot of substance abuse type of patients. Needless to say, it's become prevalent in areas like Massachusetts, and in fact, it's reached a level that has been described as an area of epidemic, particularly in the opiate abuse area. Steve had mentioned I do practice addiction medicine as well. I run 2 clinics that we treat individuals who were predominantly, no fault of their own, addicted to pain medications that were appropriately prescribed by physicians. However, I believe that it might have been overprescribed, and also I believe that we as physicians don't really comprehend or understand that there is a genetic or predisposition to individuals that may actually become addicted to medications that are supposed to help them, like painkillers. It's unfortunate that it's not something that can be predicted when we see patients. They come to us, they are in pain, and we try to address that issue. Individuals that can come off pain medications, we love to see them do that. Individuals, however, who get prescribed pain medications that go on to the addiction aspect of it becomes a whole different aspect of management and treatment. Fortunately, there are medications that can be utilized that can get them off of their addiction. Medications such as methadone in the past and currently present, Suboxone, which I believe is more appropriate based on studies and based on the ability to have these individuals take an oral type medication and be able to function within their own area of expertise. I deal with patients that are professional type levels, i.e. such as nurses, paramedics, firefighters, attorneys, individuals who, again, had this predilection to addiction for opiate medications. The concern, or what's rather interesting, I find, in some of the research and studies that have come about in states that have had medicinal marijuana dispensaries, and there are numbers that are showing that in those states that individuals who have been addicted to opiate abuse, there's been a decrease in a number of admissions that are required for those individuals who have some significant disease process from the opiates themselves, either withdrawals, significant withdrawals, or actually near-death experience, or those who actually have died from it. Not only has there been a decrease in the admission for those individuals on opiate abuse, but there's also have been a decrease on the abuse of opiates itself in the population. As a physician in addiction medicine who runs Suboxone clinics, I found this actually another avenue or another pathway of being able to decrease what, like I mentioned earlier, has become an epidemic, and in the sense of mortality in those individuals that abuse opiates and heroin. I think it involves not just the genetic aspect, but there's a behavioral pattern that we see among those who develop addiction. And I also, we have the ability to treat those individuals with counseling, and that's an important aspect of the whole treatment aspect of addiction medicine. The medicinal marijuana will be able to give individuals who come to the facility educational pathways that can direct them to a clinic like I run that will give them the ability to go on drugs. I mentioned Suboxone. There is also a new medication that's been approved called Vivitrol, and it's supposed to have some longer-term effects with regards to preventing withdrawals, and then eventually to even take them off of the substance abuse medication. So there is enough studies. I wouldn't be part of a group. I wouldn't be prescribing something that I didn't feel had some relevance in the medical society. And I think it is involved, we are evolving and trying to figure out what would be the best manner, and maybe is there a best ideal type of medication that's out there. I think at this present time, we do have to look at what would be best offered, and I think if there are indications that medicinal marijuana can do so, then I'm in favor of that. I mean, the tight control that will occur is something that obviously, in my mind, is quite important, and certainly we don't want to be prescribing medicinal marijuana so that it can be used on the street recreationally or sold. And we take these same measures in our clinics when I prescribe Suboxone as well. I think, again, being able to utilize what's at hand, what research has proven to be effective. Not only that, but colleagues that I work with who are in the field of oncology, who takes care of cancer-type patients, and knowing that they can rely on this type of medication when others have failed. Working out the emergency department, I've had individuals who come in on receiving chemotherapy-type medications, and they break through the normal medications that help with their pain, and they break through medications that's supposed to control their vomiting and so forth. When there is something that can be offered to them where they can be kept at home, reasonably comfortable, avoiding having to go to the hospital, again, is being looked at as something favorable. I think the role that I've seen in reports where in dealing with those who suffer from chronic pain can take individuals off of pain medications and can be put on medicinal marijuana to control it. It's an intriguing type of substance. It has several components to it. I think the development of it is such that we have to pay close attention to the component that does relieve things as pain and inflammation. and try to control the component of it that we see that can give them some type of behavioral disturbance. So there's a science involved with it, obviously, and it's something that would be looked at in a way, that would not unleash, another type of substance that would be considered abusive, among our society. I wanted to emphasize all of the above. Appreciate your time, and I'm sure there are questions, and I believe there are questions at the end of this session. Thank you.
So
Thank you
in closing, we'd like to thank you very much for your time this evening. We look forward to partnering with the Foxborough community, and we're happy to take any questions that you have at this point.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So as I said, there's an informational packet. We'll do Bill, circulate that through the different public safety and Board of Health and planning. There's an unusual amount of people here tonight, so I think part of our process to listen. I'm going to ask if anyone wants to come and speak. Just come to the microphone, try to be succinct and respectful, and we'll take you as you come up.
Hi. My name is Jean Sorrow. I'm a resident of Franklin, and I'm a medical marijuana patient and patient advocate for parents with children with severe epilepsy, veterans with PTSD, and heroin addicts who need a safe and effective pain medication for when they come off of the opioids and benzodiazepines. In 2013, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. I went through over 13 months of grueling treatments, which I ended up with severe bone pain. I was really sick and in a lot of pain. So at the time, friends used to say to me, "Oh, are you taking the medical marijuana?" And at the time, I didn't know anything about it. I only thought it could be used for nausea and appetite and stuff like that, and I didn't have that problem, so I didn't ask for it. After my treatment, I was watching 60 Minutes one night, saw the report that they did on the business, what's going on in Colorado. I get very interested, so I started researching it. They opened the New England Institute of Cannabis in Natick, and I saw it advertised on Channel 5 on Chronicle. So I called them, and I asked them to go in. I wanted to talk to them about the school. So I went in. They told me it was 12 courses, and they gave me a lot of information and blew me away. So I said, who do I write the check out to? And I was the first registered student of that school. I took 12 courses, and like I said, I was totally blown away. I found that a compound that comes out of it, which is called CBD oil, it's non-psychoactive, it doesn't get you high. It may prevent my cancer from coming back. It also almost immediately alleviated the pain I had in my bones. I couldn't sleep through the night. My hips would kill me. And it was almost immediate. And I believe in it so much. I mean, it's never killed anyone, never killed a single person. It's totally safe, and there's such a stigma. And it's my, it's my lot in life now to go around and educate people about this very safe and effective drug that, I mean, Dr. Lester Grinspoon, who's professor emeritus of Harvard School of Psychiatry, said that this plant could be as significant to our society as the discovery of penicillin. And it was used as a medicine for 10,000 years, up until 1937, when the federal government decided, you know, it's bad, and gave it the name marijuana, so it sounded Mexican. I try to call it cannabis as much as I can. I have worked with the governor. I know Governor Baker. I went to high school with him. I've spoken to him several times about this. I've made speeches in front of the opioid work group meetings. I've spoken to Mary Lou Sutters, who's the head of Health and Human Services, and I've given presentations to Jennifer Barrels, who was a deputy of policy and procedures at the Department of Public Health. I was one of the people instrumental in getting the guidelines of licensing these dispensaries, changed. And Governor Baker even told me the night they came out with the press release that they were changing it as of June 29th. I saw Charlie that night at a fundraiser for Richard Ross, and I said, I'm doing the happy dance. And he goes, you were right. I took a look at the way that they were licensing dispensaries, and he goes, it was ridiculous. He goes, I have no idea why they set it up like that. He goes, but I think we've made some significant changes, and I think you'll be very happy. So, I really encourage you to learn about this plant. And we can take it out of the hands of the drug dealers. We can put it in a tightly regulated dispensary. I mean, right now the drug dealers are running the show. They don't care how old our kids are. They don't care what's in it. They're selling harder drugs. They keep all the profits. And, in this regulated system, these dispensaries have to take it from seed to sale. They have to produce all their own products. And it has to be all tested by state laboratories before it's sold. It has to have regulated packaging. So you know what the THC level is in it when it's sold out of a dispensary. You know if it has bugs or molds or chemicals in it. And you have to prove, I have my medical card, and it's not easy to get into a dispensary. And it's very hard for these people to get a license, and it's very easy for them to lose it. So they're not going to be screwing around. I lost my train of thought. There was
Jane,
one
I
more.
gotta cut you a little short, because there's a lot of people here
Okay,
tonight,
yeah.
so.
All right. Well, I can't think of the last thing I wanted to say, but I just encourage you to learn as much as you can about this. And
Okay.
don't just, say, because I'm not a stoner. Do I look like a stoner? And I use it every day.
All right, thank you, Gene.
Yep.
Could I just ask a question? You had mentioned there was 6 people associated with you. Are you the 6th person associated with this group?
No, Donna Rainham,
Oh,
who is back here. Yes.
Thank you.
Would you like us to identify ourselves?
Please, the name and address.
My name is Mary L. Pike. I live at 72 Prospect Street in Foxborough. And I think I will address my questions to you, Mr. Angelo, or if you're Mrs. Angelo, you're welcome to answer also. I'm aware that each county in Massachusetts is a potential site for a medical marijuana dispensary, with Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard being the most challenging sites because it is illegal to transport marijuana over the waters in Massachusetts. I have a few questions, and if you answer them as I go along, that might be the most expedient. Where do local seekers of medical marijuana go now for their supply?
Right now, they're forced to go to either the one dispensary that's open or closed, depending on, what is available there, and the caregiver system. So there is a caregiver system in the state of Massachusetts, or patients can grow their own at this point until dispensaries are up and online. So those are the 3 ways, and the 4th way is the black market.
Is there only one dispensary now?
There is only one dispensary that's open, and that's in Salem.
In Salem?
Correct.
Okay.
Excuse me, I drive 4 hours round trip to Maine to get my medicine right now.
Well, I'm pleased that you're having a good experience. How many sites have you already looked at?
Locations for dispensaries?
Yeah.
We've looked at quite a few
Okay.
sites.
Approximately less than 20?
I would say the answer to that is probably no. As far as buildings and facilities, yes, we've looked at more than 20.
Okay. The site you are considering at the corner of North Street and Route 1 does not look like it could be renovated. If you received permission to locate there, would you knock down the existing structure, an old contaminated gasoline station, clean the site up to EPA specifications, and build new?
We couldn't do that quick enough. So the answer to all of that is yes.
You would,
So the facility
okay.
will go down. We have it in the agreement with the property owner that once we break ground, there is a requirement for a licensed state professional to be on site during the breaking of, if there's any ground broken greater than 3 feet, okay? And so that licensed state professional will be on site. If there's any contamination discovered, if and when that happens, we will assess the situation and we'll begin the necessary work to look on the cleanup work. But the owner, the actual owner of the facility is ultimately legally and financially responsible, and that's under contract with us as
To
part of our
clean
lease
it up
agreement.
before you get involved?
No, to clean it up at the time that we're responsible for demolishing the building. All of the plans and the engineering work and the new construction, all of that is borne out of our expense. The entire project, we are funding the entire project with the carve-out exception of any cost related to contamination and cleanup. That is the property owner's responsibility.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
How do the neighbors feel about this, and how would it affect their property values?
So I'll let Irina speak to property value issues, as she's a licensed certified appraiser. But as far as people around, we've spoken to several abutters and individuals and businesses right in the general area, and there has been nothing but support for our organization and for that location.
Oh, okay, and how would it affect property values?
Of course, there has been no studies at this point in Massachusetts. However, with that said, would be a retail location. So it would be no more effect of commercial influence to your property than it would be if it was a gas station there, or that property values in a residential area, if they abut commercial, it's considered an adverse, it's considered adverse to the property in some degree. So therefore, that still would go into play as far as the commercial aspect of that. But as far as just a medical marijuana dispensary, again, there has been no studies of it as of right now, but as an appraiser, myself, if there was a dispensary, it would be noted, and it would just be noted because there was commercial use next to it, not because of the dispensary in itself.
Okay. I agree with Jim DeVellis and voted against dispensing medical marijuana in Massachusetts, as it is a gateway drug to stronger and more harmful drugs. Would our time be better spent lobbying the drug companies to produce medication with fewer side effects, i.e. less nausea from chemotherapy? And so I encourage our select board to vote no, non-support of this proposal, and oppose the siting of a dispensary in Foxborough, also avoiding the potential problem of ineffective regulation. We are already dealing with an epidemic of drug abuse.
Thank you, Mrs. Pike.
Thank you for your questions.
Mrs. Slattery.
Hi, my name is Martha Slattery. I live at 2 Joseph Road in Foxborough. I probably have you beat by about 23 years as being in the medical profession. I've seen more than my fair share of patients suffer with chemotherapy. In regards to the former person was up here in regards to medications, probably one of the first high-powered antiemetics for chemotherapy patients was Zofran. I was shocked at the cost. When it first came out, it was $300 a pill. And for someone who didn't have insurance coverage, it was prohibitive. That being said, I understand probably as well, if not better, because of family members, that there is a need for medical marijuana. However, my problem is where you want to put it. I don't think putting it on the corner of Route 1 is an ideal spot. Number one, we have 68,000 people going to the stadium on occasion for functions, going by this dispensary. It abuts a neighborhood who clearly was against casinos, and I cannot, for the life of me, imagine that they would want this in their neighborhood. That being said, I don't doubt the credentials of the people who will run this. I don't have a problem with people who acquire cards. I suffer from pain as much as anybody else does. Life is about choices and what you want to use. I choose to use nothing. But unfortunately, I don't think you could pick a worse spot. And I'm a little bit surprised that if you're from Walpole, why aren't you putting one in Walpole? I think this goes above and beyond a high-profile area to put something like this. I think my biggest fear is that we'll have people going in and out of this facility to acquire medical marijuana, which they justifiably need. But who's watching them? Who's following them? Who's going to have access to them? What about it being in people's home? You know, we all realize that our kids have access to what's in our medicine closets. And I think Foxborough and the surrounding towns have more than their fair share of things to deal with right now with drug abuse and what's going on. But I am adamantly opposed to this being put on Route 1. I think it's, you know, if there was a break, it's pretty far away from the police station. If you want to put one in, put it across from the police station where it can be monitored 24/7. You know, nobody wants anything in their neighborhood, to be honest with you. I wouldn't want it. I'm on the other side of town. I'm not going to see it. I don't see the stadium. I will not see this facility. I understand the need for it better than anybody. I've had family members with cancer. But this is the wrong place to put it. You've got McDonald's, you've got all these food places. My problem is who's watching the people going in and out of there? Will they follow them? Will they harm them? What will happen to them? And I don't think we're thinking this through. And I'm just surprised you're not putting it in your own town. Okay? I'm tired of Foxborough being the poster child for upcoming new inventive things, and I don't think this is something that this town really is going to be behind. It's my own personal opinion.
Thank you, Martha.
Good evening. My name is Karen Wolf. I'm a resident at Foxborough. I'm a parent at Foxborough. I don't want my 4-year-old growing up in a neighborhood with a drug dispensary. 'Cause it's a fact, once the patient gets the drug, you don't know what they do with it. You don't know if they're selling it. I assume the 20 locations that you already looked at, that you were already denied. I also want to point out that a quarter of a mile the other way is Boyden Elementary School. So here you have 500 children under 10 that you're going to have 400 yards from a drug dispensary. So that really upsets me. That really worries me. So really, that was all my comments.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wolf.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. John Murta, Summer Street, Walpole. Does the board realise that this is a heavily contaminated site? And I believe the contamination from that site is seeping across the road behind McDonald's into the wetlands there. We have the watershed of the Neponset River. It's a very serious situation, and I think before the board of selectmen move any further, they need to get some sort of approval and a roadmap from DEP to see how we can manage the contamination. You know, I witnessed, I live up there. After a 2-inch rainstorm, you can see the rainbow on top of the water there in the wetlands, right behind the country store and McDonald's. That's a sign of oil, contaminated oil. So I ask you as a board, do your duty, and before any approval or any work, you have to confront the contaminants, and there's a lot of them. I believe the oil tanks may be still in the ground, leaking. So that's about it. That's my biggest worry going forward. And thank you for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Hi, how are you today? Thanks for letting me speak. I didn't plan on speaking tonight, but I feel compelled to.
Yeah, could we just have your name and your address for the
Yes,
record?
I'm sorry. Bill Sline. I live at 11 Mackenzie Lane in Foxborough. I have 20 years of law enforcement experience working for the Boston Police Department. And recently, a couple things that you might want to look into is the methadone clinics that we've been dealing with in Boston. Some of the residents of the South End Back Bay area, you might want to see how they feel about having a methadone clinic. And I know they're very different, and you guys look like you're a very squared away and organized group. But the bottom line is this: is a tremendous potential for abuse. If you just, everybody, I recommend go home and Google, get medical marijuana card in Massachusetts, and you'll be shocked at how easy it is to do and all the suggestions that come up. So I'm all for medical marijuana, and I believe it does a lot of good. But it's that small percentage of people that abuse it, and you know there's going to be a small percentage, whether it's 5 or 10%, and that's going to lead to 100 or 80 or 200 people roaming the streets of Foxborough, going to get something to eat at McDonald's and then roaming around. And then it's also going to make marijuana much more accessible for the youth in Foxborough. and Walpole and all the other surrounding towns. So although I know where you're coming from, and I understand that it does do a lot of good, but it's not for a small town like Foxborough, is the bottom line. And when you think about the methadone clinics, it's a whole nother issue. That's huge. It's completely different. But the bottom line, I've talked to the methadone clinic owners, and Bain Capital happens to be one, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot of money involved if Bain Capital's involved in it. But anyway, what they tell me is it's a very small percentage of the people that are causing the problems for us at Mass Ave, Albany, and Harrison Ave. Very small percentage, but that small percentage, when they have 800 doses a day, we got 80, 150 people roaming the streets causing a lot of problems. So again, it's a lot of good stuff comes out of it, but it's not for a small town. Go home and Google that, and you'll see, there's some abuse that's going to happen with these medical marijuana cards. All of a sudden, I can't sleep, I have nightmares, I have headaches. So there's a doctor out there that's going to get you a medical marijuana card. There's no doubt about it. We all know it. So it's just something to keep in mind. I want the board, for your information, and to please look into it, and thank you for your time.
Mr. Sline, I didn't hear at the beginning, you in the police field, or are you a police officer?
Yes, I've been a Boston police officer for 20 years, and I'm assigned to the South End, Back Bay area, Lower Roxbury. And we have a number of methadone clinics there by the hospital area. Again, a whole different situation. We're overrun with it. But I suggest you research a little bit some of the people in the South End, how they feel about having a methadone clinic in their backyard. And again, there's no doubt, it's a fact, it's going to make drugs more accessible for the youth in this area. It's a fact. And the abuse is also a fact. We know that's going to happen. It's your opinion. You guys seem very squared away, very professional, impressive, but the abuse and the potential for abuse is incredible. And we all know it. And Foxborough's not the place for it. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Good evening. I'm Linda Keller from 39 Hayden Drive, and just as the other people that I have some questions, what hours would your facility be open?
Yeah, so there are some requirements both at the state and I believe at the bylaw level in Foxborough as well. So we'll be looking at certainly no later than most likely about 7 o'clock at night, from like 10 in the morning till 7 at night, that sort of thing. There'll be no late nights or anything along those lines. But I do believe, if I recall, there was specific operating windows identified in the bylaw for Foxborough, and we'd certainly adhere to that. We have no interest in being open nights and things like that. This is, during the day, but during the weekends as well.
7 days a week? You said weekends?
Yes,
Okay.
we'll be looking at least 6 days a week, most likely 7 days a week.
So you would be open during every stadium event with people walking by there?
We haven't gotten there yet as far as working through those logistics and those issues on either side of that issue. But that certainly, if we are to proceed with this location, that's certainly something that we would build a plan around and have a position on. We're just not there yet.
Okay. Talking about security, how many people generally would you expect to be visiting your facility on a daily basis? Is that something that you even have a number on, or?
Yeah, I think, I want to say that we start off with maybe 30 to 40 visits a day, somewhere in there, patient visits per day. And as the program continues to evolve, we would expect that number, to increase, a little bit. But those are the numbers I think that we're expecting as we open up in the program.
The Salem Center's by appointment only right now, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So somebody could go in by appointment and just then stay outside your facility, or do you?
Oh, no.
They have to leave
Oh,
the
no, they're
facility?
leaving, yes, absolutely.
Okay. And how is the product dispensed? Is it cigarette, gummies, all different kinds of ways?
Yeah, so there are many different ways to deliver the medicine, okay? And we will be looking at exploring all of those different ways. So there's, just with the plant material itself, right? And then there's what's called marijuana-infused products, which could be a pill, it could be a patch, it could be an edible item, it could be oils, tinctures, lotions, and things like that. So we are working through all of that, but we do have plans to develop marijuana-infused products. None of our processing or growing is happening at this facility. This is strictly a retail dispensary facility, and that's it.
So people could, on their way to the stadium for any number of events, stop there, and then make their way in. I know at Comcast Center, not too long ago, a couple months ago, I had a family member go to a concert, and there was smoking marijuana openly everywhere, and even the person on stage who was singing came out smoking. And
Well, you can drink alcohol there, too.
anyway, I'm talking about marijuana. So that is obviously a concern about taking it from one place, going to the next, or they leave the facility, but how many people are walking by and who are they, you know, scalping tickets, anybody's selling stuff along the way. So that's a concern. I would really encourage, I know there were some wonderful people, one who's in this room now, who did a lot of research on the casino project, and did a lot of research on the homes in Connecticut, the people who live in Connecticut, and what impact that had on their neighborhoods. So maybe we as a town, or you as a board, or in conjunction, we could find out about the dispensary in Salem and really how it's working, how the residents around it feel that, you know, they're living with the situation, and, you know, take that research into consideration as well. And lastly, the traffic flow. I can't even imagine. It's hard enough to get out of the gas station. So on the other side, I can't imagine. So people be coming out and either crossing Solids to go left, or they'd have to go right, which would take them into Foxborough, or they'd go right under Route 1. And I'm just thinking that alone, with more people coming in and out of there as well, that corner is already pretty hectic. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Keller.
Hi, my name is Nancy Gallivan. I live at 11 Bridle Path in Walpole. I'm also on our school committee. And one of the questions that I have is for your board. A few people have reached out to me because in addition to the Boyden Elementary School, we have 2 preschools that are even closer than Boyden to that site. And I'm just wondering if people in Walpole want to express their concerns, what's the best process for them to use? Because I didn't know about this hearing until about 4 o'clock this afternoon, so I didn't encourage them to come. But is there an email that you as a board use? Would that be the best way?
Yeah, if you could be patient a little bit.
Sure.
We're learning this process as well. We're asking the attorney to review the application,
Okay.
make available the applicable state laws that we can review, and then we're going to have a meeting with him or her to tell us what our responsibilities and our role is on this. So part of that process is we certainly want to hear from our residents. We can hear from Walpole. I think probably where we're going to head towards is an email. All of our emails are online, and our phone numbers are online. Having said that, we've been through this before with the casino where, you know, you get hundreds of emails and calls.
Right.
It's part of our job, so we're expecting that. But if we could streamline it maybe through our office where we have secretaries, a town manager, an assistant town manager, that may be easier, and you can disseminate that information to us. So be a little patient. We're not going to vote on this tonight. We're taking it under advisement, and then we'll re-notify the public on the best way to get your input.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Good evening. My name is Steve Uden. I am an active volunteer in this town and a member of certain boards, but I represent only myself from 21 Carmine Ave in Foxborough. I'm a husband and a father, and thank you for your presentation tonight. My message is, frankly, for my fellows here from town on the board. And it's to ask you to give great prudence and consideration and take as much time as possible to understand what appears to be, at best, a confusing legal implementation of a law that has conflicts with federal regulations in ways that we don't even know in some cases, and could incur costs to our town on legal matters that we don't even know of yet. And I hope that there isn't a speedy, knee-jerk reaction to this. While many of you here know me from town, I have a great amount of compassion for those in pain and in need of all kinds. But this is a business matter for the town also. And that compassion needs to also be exercised, not just for those who voted in this state and in this town for this matter, but for the thousands who did not vote for it. And as I also understand, it was presented that the town voted overwhelmingly at town meeting for a dispensary on Route 1. And unless I am incorrect, I would like a little clarification on that this evening or somewhere down the road. We voted because we like to control where we put things in our zoning on Route 1. It wasn't, as I understand it, a call for a dispensary in our town. So I'm sorry to preach to my friends
Steve,
here.
you're correct.
I'm
Yes, yeah,
sorry to
just
preach here to my friends, but that's all I have to say, and I thank you all for your time. God bless you all. Good.
Thank you, Steve. That's a good point, if I can just expand a little bit. And then in my business, I put it in the, in this term, if nobody likes adult entertainment center, so if it's not in our zoning, or if our zoning is silent on an adult entertainment center, it can go anywhere through a process. So what the town voted on was, when the state voted approval of a marijuana dispensary, it was silent in everybody's zoning, cities and towns. So the town said, where, some people could say, where's the best place to put it, or where is the place where it has the least impact to the schools, the children, and the residences. So some towns put it in a remote corner where, out of sight, out of mind. Foxborough decided to put it on Route 1 where it's a highway. They certainly did not vote for a dispensary. They voted for an area to consider if somebody came in for a dispensary, where would it not go and where could it go. So just some clarity on that.
Hi, Rachel Calabrese, 53 Cross Street, and I speak on behalf just of myself. My family has lived here for 16 years, and I was not going to speak tonight. I just wanted to come and find out a little bit about what you guys are about and just get some knowledge. But one of the things that kind of inspired me to get up and talk is that you had said that you, had talked to the neighbors, and that you felt that everyone you had talked to was in full support. And my kids being the ages that they are, I get to know a great deal of people in town, and everyone that I've kind of opened it up to and said, what is your feelings on this? I've gotten things like, I'm appalled, I'm horrified, I'm scared, I don't want this in my town. So that's kind of, I was just asking people's opinion on things. So I can't imagine who you'd be talking to. There's a lot of people tonight who wanted to come but couldn't because of vacations or different things that are very much against this. So I just, when you said that everyone you've talked to has been in full support, kind of blew my mind a little bit. Everything that I've ever done is work with kids in my prior job and my job now. I work with children, and I just feel like right now, in this day and age, we do have a drug epidemic. We have a lot of kids, a lot of older people addicted to drugs. I definitely feel marijuana is a gateway to drug addiction. I would never want anybody who is suffering of cancer or anything else, anybody in pain, being able not to get this. I understand, but I completely agree with the police officer who is here that there's just so much room for abuse, or people bring this home and the kids get to it. It's always about the kids. And in all honesty, I love this town. I've always loved this town. I haven't lived here my whole life, but fell in love with it since I've been here. Mm-hmm. And I don't think our kids need to be subjected to anything more that could push along the drug epidemic. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Anyone else from the audience? Sure.
Hi, my name is Robert Hadge. I live in 49 Shoreline Drive.
what I'm hearing from a lot of people, and I don't know much about the business here, is they're worried about people hanging around and getting and buying the marijuana when people come out. I'm seeing it though, and again, Route 1, very commercialized. It's almost like people hanging around CVS in Route 1. It's a brand new pharmacy. They go in for OxyContin. I know today, right now, it's probably one of the biggest drugs right now that people are worried about is getting hooked on OxyContin. I don't see people hanging around CVS looking to buy OxyContin from someone who's, prescribed it. People can't go to a Patriots game and say, oh, I want to get some pot. They have to have a license. These people do not issue a license. The state issues a license. I'm assuming, is it the state?
Yes.
The state issues a license. So they wouldn't be giving anything that jeopardize the business unless they have a state issued license. So all I'm saying is, it's just that you're not gonna have people hanging around there. It's no different going to the doctor's office, people hanging around the doctor's office waiting for people to come out to try to get prescriptions. It's not their responsibility, it's a state we have to worry about who are giving license to people who don't deserve it. I've had family members who use it because of medical marijuana is helping them. They need it. So if I was to say no, we don't want it here, and every town says no, how are they gonna get it? I think it's the board's responsibility to see, is this the right place? I'm not sure about that, but it's just to say they don't want it in our town. I think it's kind of being a little blindsided and not seeing the need for this. So.
Thank you, Mr. Hedge.
Kristen Papiano, Carpenter Street. I just would urge the board and our town manager, whatever discretion we have in the process as it develops, I just urge you, similar to Mr. Uden, to give us as much time and be as thoughtful as you can, but also please build in as much ability for the public to be heard on this issue, because I think the vote is misunderstood. I think it's misquoted in the papers at times. The vote meant what the vote meant. We want to limit the space, not that we're in big support of having a marijuana dispensary. Thanks.
Thank you.
How you doing? My name is George Defina. I think the presentation was great, and first time for this process, but I just wanted to come up and say a few words. Basically, I live at 196 North Street. My front door is about 50 feet away from this spot. First off, I was never approached, or if there was a meeting for the neighborhood, I wasn't ever made aware about it. But that's, I'm new to the town, so that's, could be normal if that happened.
Okay, can I just stop you there, just for
Yeah.
clarification? You said you met with the neighbors?
Yes, I had, so we took possession of the property actually July 1st. We've got a conditional lease right now, where, of course, nothing is taking place with the property. We've just taken possession. So we are doing the parking. So we were out there last Friday, both Rena and myself, and actually my son were doing the parking for the evening. I was approached by 3 different people, all right in the area, 2 businesses and 1 individual that I believe is 2 doors down, that owns a cabinet shop or something along those lines.
He's 1 door down. That's
1 door down, right,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Account, maybe is his name. And so it was in those conversations that I got comments to, we fully support what you're trying to do here. And so I received, honestly, there was no meeting, I received nothing but positive feedback. It wasn't a general consensus of the area or anything. It was not an official study or anything like that. It was simply, while we were out there, we had a few people come to us and
Okay,
engage
so
us in the
I'm hearing
discussion.
it different now than when it was presented, so I envisioned you had a meeting, you outreached to
No,
the neighbors.
I apologize
Okay,
if
fair enough,
that was the way it was
Maybe that might not be a
interpreted.
bad idea.
No, I
Maybe-
mean, that's absolutely, if I can speak to that, I mean, that is absolutely part of the plan. This is the first conversation that this company
Yeah,
has.
maybe too early in the process, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Absolutely, but no, we
Okay.
fully intend to engage the community, hold a
Absolutely.
meeting at the site and.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's all right.
Continue.
I don't really have any more to say. I think everybody that came up said every point that needed to be made there. The logistics of that corner, very hard for me to envision 2 years down the road, 150 people coming in and out of that spot a day. That's a very tough corner to be in. I do think that it's great that the site will be cleaned up. I think that we need something better in that area, but I also don't think that a medical marijuana dispensary is a good fit for that location. Obviously, I don't want it, 2 doors down from me, but there's more than that. It's in a highly visible spot. And the second lady that spoke made a very good point as to everybody can see it, you know. And that's pretty much all I had to say. I would assume that, you know, just as everybody else, I would like you guys to reconsider or, you know, follow the process all the way with the neighborhood committee to try to make sure that everybody has a say in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George.
Would it be okay for me to just respond to a point?
Sure.
So just to make sure, so everybody understands, this building will be nondescript. There will be no flashing marijuana lights or signs or anything like that. You will not know what this facility is unless you are specifically looking to go there to pick up and get your medicine. There will not be anything that screams or even whispers
You
a
can't
medical
even have
marijuana
windows.
facility.
I would
You won't even be able
expect
to
it to
see.
be that way.
Yes.
I wouldn't
So-
expect it to be the other way.
Okay, I just want to make sure, one of the things that you
Yeah.
had mentioned about, you know, about everybody will see it. So that it's not going to be plastered out there in any way, shape, or form. It'll be very silent on what it is.
Okay.
There will be only 2 locations in the whole Massachusetts, and they will be obvious, that's the place where it's located.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, if you're gonna speak, I gotta ask you to come to the mic. Oh, you can speak, but just your name and your address so we can identify you. Are you finished, George?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Dinora Defina, located in 196 North Street.
Okay.
So, just to point out, if you're saying that it's gonna be, you know, flashlights to say where this place is gonna be located, whoever is gonna be looking for medical marijuana is gonna be easily know where the location of this place is, and you can easily see. And if we're going to compare it with a CVS, multiple people go to CVS, but not all of them, not everybody goes there to get Oxycontin or anything like that. So you cannot follow somebody who's going there to look what they are getting, because they could get any other prescription. So you cannot compare it with a CVS. This place is going to be specifically for marijuana. And another thing, it's like at this street is a kindergarten, and if somebody is going to bring their kid there and walking them with a stroller, beside any other family member that is bringing their kid over there, you can walk with kid with a stroller, and somebody that just took the medical marijuana could be like taking it and walk behind you. I don't think people would be comfortable doing that. So
Okay, thank you.
I vote no.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else this evening in the audience? Okay, so that concludes their presentation. Let me ask the board, at the beginning I said my preference is to take this under advisement till we can get some more information. How do you guys want to proceed?
Well, I think, given the information, given that there's a lot more information to come from our legal team and from our own research, I would limit questions, or I would wait until we have a little bit more education so we can ask better questions. So I would, you know, end the presentation tonight, and we'll pick it up at another point.
Yeah, I agree.
I will say, this is not going to be a speedy process. There's a lot for us to learn. There's a lot of information that we still need to gather. We have to do our due diligence, and we have to do our research to make an informed decision. I think we treat all applicants that way. You'll be no different. But I will tell you, you know, this is what I got a couple days ago. So there's a lot to go through here. There's 52 pages on the Mass General Law dispensaries that needs to be gone through. So expect a fairly lengthy process.
And we appreciate that due diligence, absolutely.
Okay, Jeannie?
Yeah, I just did have one question, and actually Martha asked it, and I don't think it was really answered. You're both from Walpole.
Correct.
I know Walpole has an area set aside for this.
Right.
As we did Route 1,
Correct.
they have it, it's on Route 1A.
Right.
It's an industrial area.
Correct.
Why are you coming to Foxborough?
Right.
I mean, if the whole idea is that people will be seeking this out, so it can be on Route 1A. It doesn't have to be on Route 1. So my question to you is, why don't you go to your own town of Walpole? And Oh, can you just answer?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, I thought there was
Yeah.
more. So
Well,
I
there
was
will
being
be
res-
another one,
I
but-
was
right.
trying to be respectful and not
Yeah.
stamp over your
Yeah.
question. So it really is all about patient access. And so being able to serve a larger number of patients, you're able to serve a larger number of patients and hit a larger area for access, easy access, for having an easier location to get to, right? So if it's 20 minutes or 15 minutes off the highway, down an industrial park road, that's a very different story for patients than on a very accessible road where you can, where more patients can get to. So that's one component to it. So we started a process where we started going out from our essentially home, right, in area, and started looking out to our abutting towns and locations and zoning and property availability and all of those components. It's a very complicated issue. If you can imagine for a moment, each town has zoned fairly selectively, rightfully so, right? Selective zoning in the towns for these facilities, okay? So now my only opportunity is within that small zone to locate this business, okay? Now I have to find a property that's available in that small space, and then I have to find an owner or a property owner or manager that's okay with the use. More times than not, in our discussions and in our activities and the work that we've done in this, you end up with only one property per town that falls and meets that criteria. And we didn't come up with a property in town in Walpole that met all of that criteria, and so we started to expand out the circle. And then again, we looked to Foxborough. It met all the criteria from our perspective, from patient access, the zoning, there was property availability. We looked at 3 or 4 different properties in the zone, right along Route 1. And this was the only property that was okay with the use of the 2 or 3 properties that were available at the time. And so you've got things like multi-tenant issues, right? So one of the properties we looked at was a multi-tenant building. And so you've got other tenants that may not be okay with it. So it's a very, very complex issue. It's not a matter of us, not wanting to do it in our hometown and supplanting in another community. Nothing like that in any way, shape, or form.
Well, there's no property available in the Route 1A area in Walpole?
At the time that we looked, there was no property available that an owner was okay with the use. In the town of Walpole. So again, we expanded out our circle.
Yeah, and also that had to meet the criteria of, whether it be retail type of facility, size of the building. Some of them, if we were just doing dispensary there, we certainly didn't need a 10 or 15,000 square foot warehouse, because a lot of the towns have certain areas in like an industrial park. So now you're dealing with these enormous buildings that either are not large enough for you to actually grow the product, or are too big for just the retail. So it was very selective on types of properties that were actually available. And that's just not speaking to Walpole, it's speaking to multiple towns.
Yeah, and in the information you gave us, we had copies of a number of stories from local newspapers. And one of them was, at one point, you were involved in the Bay State Medical Enterprises in Franklin, and you had looked at a location in the Franklin Industrial Park.
Correct.
And that didn't happen. Can you explain why that didn't work in Franklin?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So we were involved. We were first round applicants. We were known at the time as Bay State Medical Enterprises in the first round. We scored 4th highest of all applicants in the process in the state of Massachusetts through this process in the round 1 application. We needed to change our name from Bay State Medical Enterprises to, at the time, believe it or not, we changed it to Beacon Wellness Center. The reason why we got a trademark infringement claim against that name because of Bay State Medical Hospital, Springfield, right?
Yeah.
So we changed it, and then we were told we needed to change it again by the state because they didn't want the word wellness in the name. So hence, you now have Beacon Compassion Center. So we recognize that in the materials that you have, you'll see all 3 names, but we felt it was important to share all of this, this information, again, in being, very, very transparent.
But-
So we were in that.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead. go
Okay,
ahead.
so we were in the first round process, we scored very, very high. It is very public knowledge on all the issues with the first round process. We were victims of that process. So we had an individual on our team that had a background issue, was not to the level that the state said was a disqualifying event. We got put into a non-publicly disclosed deferred group. So we were prescribed by general counsel from DPH to simply swap that individual out and replace that individual, which they had done several times before us and many times after us. We fell into a very interesting window where the media picked up on a lot of different things, and we referenced it in my presentation with regards to lots of claims in the process of favoritism and things like that. So essentially what ended up happening was the state essentially waited until June and then gave us a letter, a confusing letter, but a letter basically saying that we haven't been selected at this time. Please apply, and we were invited to apply in the next round. So that's why you see materials from the first round.
But what was interesting was the information that was presented in that, in regard to the Franklin site. One of the things that's mentioned is that it was a nice site because, yes, it was near 495, but also it was kind of out of the way. It wasn't like in your face.
Right.
Which is totally different from this.
Oh, that's a
from
completely
this-
different facility.
No, but I mean, but the idea of the location now at the corner of Route 1
right.
and North Street, that is
So that was
not, I would say that it would be in your face. I mean, it's not something where, the other locations, like even the Walpole location, you have to seek it. You put it in your GPS, but you have to seek it, but it's not intruding.
Right.
And it's kind of quiet, it's kind of out of the way. know,
that was also a
which-
cultivation center too.
right.
So that was a 70,000 square foot warehouse.
Yeah.
There is a 60,000 square foot.
Ma'am, if you're gonna speak, I'm gonna ask you either go to the microphone or
Oh,
go
I'm
to the
sorry.
table, please.
Okay.
Only because we've got cameras that are set up for certain areas.
In Franklin, NETA, New England Treatment Access, has a 60,000 square foot grow facility. He's opening a dispensary in Brookline and one in Northampton. And it's growing. They have 2 commercial kitchens there. It's unbelievable, the facility. So that's already in Franklin. So I don't think they would grant another one because I think the state regulations say that you can only have so many per county.
5.
Right.
Yeah.
That, the Franklin, that is cultivation only.
Right.
So
Yeah,
they do-
no, that's what I said.
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
don't do
Yeah.
any dispensing there, as
No,
far as,
they
right,
do it in
right.
Brookline and Northampton.
Yeah, also you referenced that eventually this will turn into like a wellness center, and from what I read in the regulations, it can't, if you're a dispensary, you can't be a wellness center.
Correct, and that was in the very beginning, that was way before they started changing the rules as we were going along. Our intent was to have this as a wellness center, hence our name Beacon Wellness at the time as well. We wanted to have a full wellness center in addition to having a dispensary, and then the state came after that article, and after about a year after that is when they came back and they said, you cannot have a wellness center as part of it. So,
And my final question, I just have one more question. Is it out of the realm of possibility of you partnering with a real medical facility? Because I think when you're talking medicinal marijuana, I think people would be a lot more comfortable if you were working out of a building run by a Sturdy Hospital or Norwood Hospital or something like that. I think.
well,
I mean, is that not allowed by
Ma'am,
the regulations?
let's have dialogue between the board and the applicant, if it's okay, because I think these are questions for the applicant.
yeah.
Somewhat. Well, part of that is a zoning issue, but the bigger issue is it's virtually unprecedented for an approved medical center, such as what you're describing, to formally partner with a medical cannabis dispensary, because these medical centers are generally, or hospitals in general, are federally licensed, usually receive federal grant money, and this is still federally illegal. They would put their federal licensure and any federal funds that they receive in jeopardy by partnering with a state-approved medical dispensary. So it's virtually impossible to do that, which is why it's really important to this group to bring medical professionals onto the board of directors who do have affiliations with hospitals, but the hospitals themselves are generally prohibited from doing so. We would love to. I mean, we would love nothing more than be able to partner with a hospital on one of these projects. I'm a consultant to the project, and so I've dealt with this with clients in a little over half a dozen states around the country, and it is basically unprecedented. The hospitals simply won't touch it.
I just have one more,
All right, so-
one more question.
I'll precedent with that. We're well over a half hour for this, so this will be the last
Yeah,
question.
okay, well, did you say in your presentation that currently there is a state-run medical dispensary that, so there
It's a
is
state license.
State license.
state
Not
license?
state-run, state
That's-
license.
The one in Salem.
Salem,
just
correct.
opened
No,
up.
no. Did you say there was another one? There's one that the state has, and that supplies the, did I mishear you?
No, you did say, because before Salem opened, you said that patients were able to get medical marijuana from somewhere. I think that's what you.
Oh, so I had, there was a question from the audience about how, in lieu of dispensaries, how are patients getting the medicine today?
Right.
And so the way that they're getting it today is, the approved methods today are, patient grows their own medicine, patient on a one-to-one relationship gets a caregiver that grows the medicine on their behalf, patient goes to a dispensary if one is available, and then the only other option is they go to the black market. And what's happening most times than not is they're going to the black market today.
But there is medical, it wouldn't be medical marijuana, I think it's just the TC.
CBD oil?
Whatever, because I know people who, in 2000, had a prescription and for, so there is.
Marinol, the FDA.
Whatever,
Right.
but there is a way of getting the relief from a prescription.
If I can, I can speak to that one, and maybe the doctor would want to. What you're describing is called Marinol. It's a synthetic THC. It's a pill that contains synthetic THC. It does not contain CBD, THCA, CBN, or any of the other cannabinoids that are found in cannabis. And what we're finding in the research is that it's the interplay between these substances, and particularly the presence of CBD, which is a non-psychoactive that has the most profound medical benefits. So Marinol has proven to be relatively ineffective. Not for everybody; it does work for some folks, but the success rates of treating people with Marinol is nowhere near the success rates that we find with particularly extracted medical cannabis products that feature the interplay between THC, CBD, and the other cannabinoids that are found in the product. It's just one cannabinoid that's synthetically produced.
Okay.
Okay, so on that point, I want to thank you guys very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Real quick.
He promises it's real quick.
I'm holding all of my guns. This will be quick. No rebuttal.
I got like 50
Do you
there.
currently have a lease on the property, or do you currently own the property?
We currently have a lease. The lease is, we've got a 3-month lease right now with a 3-month extension for contingency. And then after that, we need to make a decision, and hopefully we've come to some sort of a decision within that timeframe. And then our lease is contingent upon what's called a provisional license from the state. And so that kicks in a long-term, essentially what is an evergreen lease on this property. So yes, we do have possession of it. We are doing the parking, as I indicated. My son, Rena, and myself were out there, and we'll be all out there Friday and Saturday until apparently 11:40 now with Taylor Swift. But so yes, we do currently have a lease on the property. We do not own the property.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We'll be in touch with you when,
Thank you.
if and when
Thank you.
the next
Appreciate
hearing
that.
is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, we're going to take a 2-minute break. It's been going on for quite a while. So, Frank, if you could bring us back at, why don't we say 9:35? Welcome back, 2.5 hours into our meeting. We just finished off with the last full agenda for the Beacon Compassion Center. So we're going to close out. We've got a bunch of action items, but Bill, you want to offer your town manager's update?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. There are just a couple things I want to update the board on. First is the fact that we are taking a much more active role in social media. We've met with a couple volunteers who expressed to us that they're willing to help us with that. And one person in the community has actually reached out to us and offered their assistance. And then we also had an intern from Mass Municipal Association who actually specializes in this area, who said that they would like to work one day a week with us to try and help us with social media as well. We know this is a wave of the future. We have to do more with it. So when both individuals reached out to us, it was met with open arms by us, because we know we need to do more with it. So you'll start to see more of a presence on Twitter. The police department's become more active in Twitter. The fire department's already on Twitter. Public Works will be doing more. Recreation's doing more with it, and also on Facebook, as well as more activity on our webpage as well. So we'll be looking at other venues as well once we become a little more proficient in those areas. We're developing a more comprehensive strategy about how to deal with that, so we can make sure we can get the right messages out. We live in a society where people want answers instantaneously. We're already starting to experiment with some of those issues now with, for instance, we had water main breaks. We got word out on Facebook almost immediately. We're also doing the same thing with road improvement projects this year. And hopefully the public's going to be more receptive to it. So we're trying. But bear with us, and we appreciate any feedback we can get from folks as to how we can do more with that particular area. Along the line of road improvements, I wanted to just convey to the public that P.J. Keating will be paving Carpenter Street and West Leonard Street tomorrow. If time allows, they will also move on to Leonard and Sherman Streets tomorrow. P.J. Keating will also be milling Main Street from the Common to the state highway line, which is just beyond the Dairy Queen on 140. So they'll be working on that area tomorrow. A detour will be set up for incoming traffic to go around the Rotary at the public safety building, down Baker Street and back to the Common. If it becomes a safety concern for the contractor and detail officers, they will detour traffic in both directions. This was a plan that we tried to execute yesterday, but unfortunately the weather was just too hot, and the crew just got worn out by it. So we weren't able to do that right away. So we're going to move that work on to later this week.
If they don't get Leonard Street, will they do it the next day?
They'll do. Yeah. The plan is to stay in town until you try and get it finished. I actually rode around yesterday with the DPW director, Roger Hill, and he showed me all the work that had been done and all the work that's going to be completed this year. His goal is to be done by the end of this month with all our paving program for this year.
Do you know if on Leonard Street, are they removing one sidewalk on one side completely?
They're going to remove it and then put it back,
okay.
And then also they're going to actually redo the other side at some point as well.
Can you just let Roger know in the future? I talked to a lot of neighbors on that street.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them had no idea what was happening. They weren't sure if they were losing a sidewalk, getting a sidewalk. They very unaware, and it's been at least a month the way it is right now. So in the future, just let the residents know what's going to happen.
There was a combination of issues associated with that. I know that one resident actually sent us a fairly long email about that, which was responded to in detail by Chris Gallagher. So perhaps we can get that out to more folks along that area, because it was a very good response. Explained why the project was delayed. There were certain aspects that were beyond our control. And also the contractor left town and couldn't get them back. So that's part of the mercy that we're at this time of year, is that contractors are working in multiple locations, and we can get them, and try to get them in here. Especially, that we've had a couple weekend jobs where we've had to bring people and crews on a weekend because they're available to us. We take them when we can get them, just to get the work done.
Mm-hmm.
So
the chip sealing, I think you're referring to.
Right.
That's the other thing too. It's like, neighbors need to be notified somehow, some way, that it's gonna happen or about to happen.
Well, for our social media strategy, I think hopefully we'll get there. We'll get there for this year.
Well, that's another topic I was going to bring up, hearing all this. It's nice to be notified for information. However, a few years ago, is before your time, when we put the pavement plan together, we also talked about moratoriums. So with the development that's coming on, where the town is investing in new roadways, we have a moratorium process where once a new road is overlaid, there's a moratorium, so for a number of years, you cannot cut into that road.
Mhm.
Driving down Mechanic Street, fully paved road, there was a saw cut, and it drives me nuts as there's a bump over it. I would be irate if I was a neighbor and my roadway was paved, I wanted to do a gas connection, and I gotta say, I gotta wait 5 years. So there's a formal process for notification in the paper, neighbors knowing before any pavement's done, to give them the ability to say, I'm gonna get this gas connection in before the pavement. And I'm hoping, I mean, it seems like we're repaving like crazy right now, because we have the funds and it's, but I hope we're not losing track of the notifications, because that's gonna be an issue when someone wants to connect and they can't.
Right.
Or they can, and then they have a saw cut on a new road. Is that discussed with?
I haven't had that conversation with Roger, but I can tell you that I can speak to the situation on Mechanic Street. That is a temporary overlay right now, the Mechanic Street overlay, and that was, the gas company actually made a cut there, as you speak of, in terms of trying to, they had an emergency fix that they had to get in there and cut.
But there's certain steps that if there's, even if it's an emergency, you do the saw cut, you do the infrared, so there's no saw, there's no patch at the end.
They're going back to fix that. That's just
Okay.
a temporary patch right now. They're not gonna go back and fix that. So, but as far as I will certainly have that conversation with Roger about that to see what kind of steps he's been taking with that. But I'm sensitive to that because we actually had that same type of process in my previous community, so, and we also had a limitation of, like, I think it was a 5-year moratorium.
It's a
before you-
5-year
before you-
moratorium.
We have that
before you
right
cut.
now, so it's,
Yeah, so.
5 years is a long time to wait for a
Yeah.
saw cut
Well,
permit.
otherwise, you'll have to go underneath it
Yep.
and without cutting and go through that way. So I will do a follow-up conversation with him on that. And then the other thing that I wanted to make mention of is that this Sunday night, we actually were notified today that there is a group that's forming a vigil that will be held on Sunday night from 6 to 7 p.m. At the Common Bandstand to honor the 4 Marines and 1 SEAL that were killed while serving in Tennessee this past week.
What was the time on that? 6 to 7?
From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. this Sunday evening. And they will, and we encourage anyone who'd like to attend, they wear something red, and that they join in the national anthem and words of remembrance and appreciation. And why are we doing this? Because Foxborough honors and remembers those who sacrificed so much for our freedom as Americans. And so that notification was given to me just late this afternoon, about 4 o'clock from Mike Johns. For the group that is putting it together, we're certainly very grateful, and we certainly want to honor their request to do that. So I've already approved the application to use the Common for that time. It is available. We actually steered them away from Friday and Saturday because we knew that the concert was going to be here this weekend, and we thought that Sunday would be the better time, traffic-wise, to get in and around the circle.
What group is it?
It is, they haven't actually listed themselves as a group at this point, but I just received this from Mike this afternoon. They didn't actually give me a specific name.
So it's gone through Mike Jones, though?
Yes.
Mike Jones, no.
Mike is actually helping coordinate it.
Okay.
So we'll get that detail out. And then, of course, we did have an accident today on the Common, and 4 sections of fence were destroyed, and 3 marble pillars were wrecked as well as a result of this damage. We are working to try and rectify that. It will take some time, only because a couple of the sections of the fence, we only have a couple sections. We still need 2 more, and those are going to have to be forged, and it'll be made sometime in Millbury, I guess, is a place that actually forges those sections of fence. But we haven't heard the status of the individual who ran through that. It was an accident. The person had a medical condition and resulted in going through the fence and caused a fair amount of damage there. Fortunately, nobody else was hurt, but that person was taken away in the ambulance. So bear with us as we will get out there and fix that as soon as we possibly can. That's all. Mary Beth, do you have anything you want to add?
Just one quick thing. On Thursday night, we'll be commencing the screening committee for the library director. The posting is closed, and we've received a number of resumes, and I'll be meeting with the screening committee to talk about, narrowing down the candidate pool and moving forward. We're looking at an October date for the beginning of the library director, of federal library director to begin. Also on Thursday night, prior to the library screening committee, I'll be attending the planning board meeting to talk about the posting of the director of planning position. We've waited a respectful amount of time. I think no time will ever, let us resolve the loss of Sharon, but we need to move forward because of the projects. So I'll be meeting with the planning board to talk about the actual job posting and the timeline. So that process will begin to move forward as well.
Okay, thank you. And somewhat related to that, but I know we've been sharing information back and forth on the pavilion, but do you want to give the board a quick update on that?
Yes, we have been, we've actually went out and actually developed a specification for the pavilion. We put it out to one vendor so far. We're looking at others as well to try and get some additional prices. But we've come up with a possibility of a structure that can actually be built on site. We're not sure if it's going to be done. We may need some like a crane type of use on the site to do that. But we also think that we still can do an old-fashioned bond raising of some sort to try and pull it together. But we're working on finalizing the type of roof that we'd like to use. I know that Jim's seen some others being built in other communities, and then I want to thank Bill Caspara and Roger Hill for helping with pulling that information together fairly quickly. And so we've got one price already, and we're looking at trying to get a couple more. So we'll right along.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's great.
Can I just have a question to the manager, town manager? We talked about the situation up at Gillette Stadium where they had taken the seats out, and there were going to be discussions in regard to, payment in lieu of tax. How's that going?
Well, we haven't spoken about that specifically in this past week, but I shouldn't say that. The last week I made mention of the fact that is an outstanding concern that still has to be addressed, and I've asked for more consideration on that point. I do think that we ought to be clear about what we are looking for in that particular area, because in order for me to go back to them with a response on this, I really need some clear direction on what the board would like to see in response.
Right. I think, because I'm afraid that this is precedent setting, and that's why I think, whatever is worked out in regard to that payment in lieu of taxes has to be worked out now before any other construction is because we didn't know the Optimum Center, the Optimum area was going to be put in. So who's to say more seats won't be taken out?
Right.
So where it's payment in lieu of taxes, it was based on seats, $2.55 per ticket per seat. We're now down 1,800 seats, whatever.
Seats, roughly.
We all got.
I've not seen a final number yet.
Yeah,
by the way.
but I'm concerned. That was the payment in lieu of taxes.
But doesn't the agreement with the town only guarantee a minimum?
Right.
There's a minimum payment.
Correct.
And that's the part that's in payment in lieu
Right.
of taxes.
The one thing that we don't have control over if they do remove seats, they can do that. That is within the realm of the lease.
So I hate to stop you there, but this is not an agenda item, but
that's
we do need some follow-up sooner than later.
That's why I wanted to put it.
Yep.
I asked for it to be an agenda item, and that's why I would like to see it as an agenda item.
Okay.
And before it goes on an agenda item, if you can circulate the agreement to the board. 'Cause some of us don't have it, and it would absolutely help us make an informed decision.
And I think what we talked about when this was on the agenda was there was an analysis to be done on the financial side of pluses and minuses, and I know there was a lot of minus seats plus meals tax type thought process on it. Maybe we can put that on the next.
Well, let's look at the agreement, because I think the agreement is written irrespective of meals taxes. So, I mean, whatever the language in the agreement is, we'll live by that.
Okay. Okay, we've got, I'm sorry, does that conclude the?
That includes, yes, that includes.
Thank you.
my report.
Action items, we have 3 gift donation acceptances and 1 long meeting minutes approval.
Okay, first action item, Boyden Library. Acceptance of a gift donated at $250 for the JFK Museum Pass from Foxboro Cable Access. I would like to make a motion that we approve and accept this gift with gratitude of $250 for the renewal of the JFK Memorial Pass from Cable Access.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion on the gift? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Second one is Foxborough Police Department acceptance of a gift donation of $350 to be used for drug prevention work for Foxborough against diabetes. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the gift of $350 with gratitude from the Foxborough Diabetes Group to the Foxborough Police Department.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, and just under discussion, a special thanks to Richard Noonan, who has been running this road race for years, and I think he was a catalyst for this donation.
We have 15 years this year.
15 years.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, third is animal controls for an acceptance of a $100 gift donation for the purpose of an adoption fee from S.G. Bolsh. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the gift donation of $100 to the animal control from S.J. Bolsh.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion made and was seconded. Further discussion on the gift? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Now we have a slew of meeting minutes.
We have to make the motions all individually, I would assume, on these, or we do
I
it
would
all
do them-
collectively?
Do
or-
them en masse.
Changes.
Okay,
Do it as a
there's
package.
discussion, because there is, and I apologize, this got a little away from me, but there's, well, I'll read the dates: July 14th, July 7th, June 23rd, May 19th, May 12th, April 7th, March 31st. And all of these were public meetings, obviously, all televised with the exception, I want to say, July 14th. And that was the quick meeting that we had for an entertainment license. And because it was time sensitive, we had to have it at the town hall. It was advertised, but that's the only one that was not on cable. So I've gone through it and I don't have really specific comments that would.
There was only one minor change. On the April 7th meeting, just to get it right, somewhere in the back of this, Lorraine Brew was called Lauren Brew. So Lauren, if you could just find that and correct it.
And on that same one, on page 16, in the fourth line from the bottom, it says, Mr. Weinstein's comments, Mr. Keegan stated that he appreciated Mr. Weinstein's comments, but it really was, and I think that should be irrelevant to this particular discussion. It says relevant, I think it should be irrelevant,
Or not relevant.
or not relevant,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've got a couple. On the July 7th meeting, third page, first sentence, a week ago, a buffer was put on the right side of the street so the property wouldn't have headlights going into the window. I believe that should be a year ago. That's that subdivision on Sullivan Way. A week ago just doesn't, I think it should have been a year. And then, I can't believe you didn't find this one when they called you Miss Gray.
Where was that?
I think it's the May
Was my-
12th.
was my daughter here?
50 Shades of Grey.
May 12th meeting, page 4, second sentence, the top. Mr. Gray, it says at the beginning, and then the next one says Ms. Gray believes that Ms. Brew realized it and checked with Ms. Bernard, so should be Mr. Gray instead of Ms. Gray.
Thank you for pointing that
I'm
out.
looking out for you, John. Those are the only ones that I had anything with.
On, this is just a question, on June 23rd, on page 6, I have no problem with the minutes, but it said that this is about Red Robin, and they were gonna come back for the new manager in July. says, Mr. Mitchell asked if the applications, it listed Robert Zahara as the manager, and they stated Mr. Cartier as the acting manager. Wanted to know if Mr. Zahara was still the manager. Attorney Upton stated that Mr. Zahara has moved on, and Mr. Cartier has taken over, and they weren't able to do the timing, but they have filled out the paperwork and are ready to file it almost immediately. Did we okay that?
No, they filed it, they're on the next.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, you're good.
Just to change the date, I was wrong on the minutes. It's the May 12th is the one where Lorraine's name changed. So Lauren.
What page, John? Do you know?
4.
May 12th?
May 12th.
Okay.
And on July 7th, on page 7, that was when, it's in the minutes when I asked about the tax thing on Gillette Stadium, so it's part of the minutes.
Anybody else have any other comments?
Yeah, I had one. On the May 19th, Mr. Fine.
You know, I wasn't gonna say it.
Well,
Everyone's
everybody
picking on
else
her for
is
name
changing
changes.
changing names, so.
Straight and fair. Yeah, on the bottom of page 5.
Page 5,
Deb.
should be Mr. Fair.
He's been called worse.
I know. It's one of those things, you say anything, you just let it go.
Any other comments on the meeting minutes?
I make a motion, we approve all of the meeting minutes
As amended.
As amended.
as amended.
Motion made, seconded.
I'll second it.
Further discussion on the meeting minutes? All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Deb, thank you. I gotta say, your meeting minutes are incredibly detailed.
Ms. Gray likes it too.
No, they're
Oh,
good.
no,
They're
no,
good.
no.
Are
They're
you
good
fine
record.
using the
I make
computer after
a-
the meeting is better?
Yes, I love this. I don't like Kayla's computer. I'm gonna make my husband let me use it.
Okay, all right.
But yes, I
I
love
make a
this.
motion that we close the meeting,
We adjourn.
or adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion on closing? Other than just to thank you guys. I know that was a very long meeting with the applicant, but I think it was worthwhile vetting it, and over the next, I guess, couple meetings, I think work with the staff and get the information out there.
I think it was, I appreciate the board's, it was a very civil, and very good informational meeting. I think it was really well done. Good job.
Okay, any other further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good night, everybody. Thank you.